Okay. Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome you to the June 4th meeting of the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission. We will start off with our public announcement, please.
Before we begin the agenda, the Wichita-Sedgwick County Metropolitan Area Planning Commission and the Wichita-Sedgwick County Board of Zoning Appeals would like to take this opportunity to welcome everyone to this public hearing. For those at Century 2, copies of the agenda for today's meeting, the public hearing procedure and Planning Department staff reports on all agenda items are available in the lobby. The Planning Commission's and the BZA's bylaws limit the applicant on a zoning, subdivision, or variance application and his or her representative to a total of 10 minutes of speaking time at the start of the hearing on that item, plus up to 2 minutes at the conclusion of that hearing. All other persons wishing to speak on agenda items are limited to 3 minutes per person. However, if they feel that it is needed and justified, the chairman may extend these times by up to 2 minutes. All speakers are requested to state his or her name and address for the record when beginning to speak. When you are finished speaking, please share your name, address, and the case number on the sheet provided in the room or the GoToMeeting comments box. This will enable staff to notify you if there are any additional proceedings concerning that item. Please note that all written and visual materials you present to the Commission and the Board will be retained by the Secretary as part of the official record. If you are not speaking but you wish to be notified about future proceedings on a particular case, please provide your contact information to the Planning Department. The Planning Commission and the Board are interested in hearing the views of all persons who wish to express themselves on the agenda items. However, we ask that all speakers please be as courteous and concise as possible and avoid long repetitions of facts or opinions which have already been stated. For your information, the Wichita City Council has adopted a policy for all city zoning items. A copy of this policy is available from the planning staff. The City Council relies on a written record of the Planning Commission hearings and does not conduct its own additional public hearings on these items. The decision of the BZA is final. Any appeal of a decision of the BZA is to district court.
Okay, thank you. Before we begin, note for the record that there will be no BZA meeting today as there are no cases to be heard. So if you're here for a BZA, then that will be taken up at the next meeting. For the record, who are we missing? My recollection from looking around here is that we do not have Mr. Florence. Oh, Terrell, there he is. I see him. Okay. He is. So we do have Terrell. We are missing Shane Gross and Mr. Blick.
Josh Blick and Josh.
Yeah. Everybody else there. So we do have a quorum.
Do we have Mr. Bill Johnson?
Pardon, say that again?
Bill.
Bill Johnson is online.
Bill Johnson is online.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. The first item of business will be the approval of the May 21st, 2020 minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Joe Johnson, a second by Ms. Miles. Any discussion? All of our members were present at that meeting. You know, all those in favor, let's do a roll call. Get started with that. So.
Let's do a voice vote.
Yeah.
I don't have a mic here. So
Okay. Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, I'm assuming that was an all.
Terrell said aye.
Yeah, Terrell said aye. So that approves. How many do we have? 12? Does that approve 12?
No.
11.
No. Yeah, we have 11. I'm sorry.
11-0. Okay, now we will see which items that we can take by consent. If there's anything that, if an item comes up and you wish to speak on that item, then we need to let us know so that we do not try to take that by consent. The first item on the agenda is item 2.1. That was moved to the public hearing, item of 4.1. Item 2.2, which is a final plat of the North 45th edition near 45th Street North and North Ridge Road. Does anybody on the commission wish to hear that item?
Yeah, I've got some questions on that.
Okay, we will hear item 2.2. Okay, agenda item 2.2, the one-step final plat, Clear Creek 4th edition, near South 143rd Street East and east of Highway 54. Anybody on the commission wish to hear that item? Okay, is there anybody in the audience wish to hear that item? If you're online and would like to hear that item, signify by saying so now. Seeing none, we will take agenda item 2.3 by consent. Agenda item 2.4, a one-step final plat, Northgate 4th edition, near West 53rd Street North and north of Meridian Avenue. Anybody on the commission wish to hear that item? Seeing none, is there anybody in the audience, either in Century 2 or online, want to hear that item? Hearing none, we will take that by consent. Agenda item 2.5, one-step final plat, Muth Acres Edition, near West 39th Street South and 247th Street West. Anybody on the commission wish to hear that item? Seeing none, is there anybody out there by other device wish to hear that item? Hearing none, we will take that by consent. Next is agenda item 2.6, a one-step final plat, Ritchie Edition, near South 135th Street West and West Pawnee Avenue. Anybody on the commission wish to hear that item? Seeing none, anybody online or by phone wish to hear that item? We will take that item by consent. Agenda item 2.7, a final plat at Ad Astra Estates Edition, located near East 55th Street South and south of 127th Street East. Anybody in the commission wish to hear that item? Seeing none, is there anybody online wish to hear that item? Hearing none, we will take that by consent. Yes. Okay. We just want to make sure that if you're tuning in either online or by phone, that make sure that your microphone is muted, except when you want to talk. Obviously, if you need to make sure that we turn that on, but that'll cut down some of the background noise that we're picking up here. Thank you. Agenda item 2.8 was deferred to a later date, and agenda 2.9 was deferred to a later date. Agenda item 2.10, one-step final plat, Winninger Highland Edition, near West 77th Street North and North 199th Street West. Anybody in the commission wish to hear that item? Seeing none, anybody online wish to hear that item?
Entry 2 would like to hear that item.
Okay, so who's that?
Century 2.
Century 2?
Yep.
Okay, we will hear agenda item 2.10. Agenda item 2.11, one-step final plat, Kansas Surgery and Recovery Center, 3rd edition, located near North Webb Road and south of K96 Highway. Anybody on the commission wish to hear that item? No? Anybody in Century 2 want to hear that item? And anybody online wish to hear that item? We will take 2.11 by consent. Agenda item 2.12, one-step final plat, True Building Edition, near West Maple Street and west of South Hoover Street. Anybody on the commission wish to hear that item? Seeing none, anybody at Century 2 wish to hear that item? Hearing none, anybody online from another device wish to hear that item?
Hello?
Hello, do we have somebody out there who would like to hear agenda item 2.12, one-step final plat, true building addition?
I can't find deal. I'm Al Cameron's all I know, buddy. And I have a property at 3218 South Waco.
Okay,
I'm trying to
what
find
is your,
the hash.
okay, your name, sir?
My name is Al Cameron.
Okay,
C-A-M-E-R-O-N.
are you by phone or online? How are you speaking to us?
I'm on my cell phone.
On your cell phone? Okay, we will, if you want to hear that, we can put that on the agenda to hear.
Is that,
Yeah, I can't remember. Okay.
Okay,
Yes.
do we need to have him hold, or can we call him when we get, if he's on the phone? Can we get a hold of him, some way to call him when that item comes up? Is there any way to do that?
is he sure this is the?
I don't think this is his item, if he's on Waco,
Yeah, 'cause he
this
was talking
project's
about
not, this one isn't
South
on
Waco.
Waco.
This is on South Hoover.
Oh, okay. Okay, sir,
I don't know how to find. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
go ahead.
I don't know how to find which one's mine. I was looking. I
Okay,
couldn't really.
is it,
It's
are you
no
an
residential, but
applicant?
now it's moved to-
Are you an applicant, or
Go ahead,
you
sorry.
want to wish to talk on one that's in your neighborhood?
I own the property and I'm getting it rezoned from residential to commercial is what I'm trying to do.
And it's your property?
This,
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you're,
On the,
We haven't got to it yet.
go ahead.
Looks like item 4.6.
yeah, for South Waco.
okay. If you can hold, hopefully you'll hear us when we come on, you'll hear which one we're talking about. I'm gonna assume at this point that agenda item 2.
Yeah, general commercial.
3218 South Waco.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Okay, we'll hang on the line, we'll get back with you here in just a little bit. We're gonna take 2.12, the one-step final plat true building addition by consent.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve by consent items 2.3 through 2.7 and 2.11 and 2.12.
Second,
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Green, second by Mr. Hartman. Any questions on those? If not, we've got to do a roll call vote. We need to do, I just don't know any way. Well, let's see, I guess we have everybody in this room, so we can. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Opposed? None opposed. That passes unanimously, 11-0. Okay, we've got two people online. We've got Terrell and Bill Johnson, so we'll have to make sure we get their votes correctly.
Yep.
aye.
Okay. Public. Thank you. We're good. Public hearing items. Agenda item 3.1 was deferred indefinitely. Agenda item 3.2 is a city vacation of a portion of North Kansas Avenue near North Hydraulic and East 13th Street. Anybody in the commission wish to hear that vacation item? Anybody at Century 2 wish to hear agenda item 3.2? Anybody online or by phone wish to hear agenda item 3.2, vacation item? Hearing none, we will take 3.2 by consent. Agenda item 3.3, a county vacation of a portion of complete access control near South 119th Street West and West 71st Street South. Anybody on the commission wish to hear that item? And then anybody at Century 2 wish to hear that item? Hearing none, is there anybody from another device wish to hear that item? Hearing none, we will take that by consent. I'm assuming that child didn't object to that.
That sounded like a tiger.
I think he wants to hear.
Yeah. Agenda item 3.4, city vacation of a portion of a platted easement near North Mays Road and West 29th Street North. Anybody on the commission wish to hear that item? Seeing none, anybody at Century 2 wish to hear that item? Hearing none, is there anybody by another device wish to hear that item? We will take 3.4 by consent. Okay, agenda item 3.5 was deferred to June 18th. Agenda item 3.6, a city vacation of the north-south alley and easement located near West Texas Avenue in the Delano Overlay Association. Anybody on the commission wish to hear that item? Anybody at Century 2 wish to hear that item? Anybody by another device wish to hear that item? Hearing none, we'll take 3.6 by consent.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve items 3.2, 3.3, 3.4, and 3.6.
Second.
Mr. Chairman, do we need to allow for the abstentions that occurred at the subdivision committee? Or we allow that to take care of our vote now? We've got 3 abstentions that occurred at the subdivision.
Yeah, how do you want to handle that, Scott or Dave?
I would just simply take a voice vote. We will note for the record that those abstained at subdivision that are here will abstain also.
That'll be our understanding. So those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And that,
And then all those
I had
opposed,
Joe.
and then all those abstain.
yes. Motion by Mr. Green, second by Joe Johnson, approved unanimously with abstentions based on the abstentions of the subdivision committee. Okay, moving on, we're in public hearing, agenda item 4.1, amendments to the Wichita-Sedgwick, this one, is amendments to our subdivision rules and regulations, and we can take that by consent. There was no discussion at the subdivision committee. Is there anybody on the commission wish to hear that item? Yes.
Justin Wagner, Assistant County Counselor. I was just going to point out that that is a required public hearing, so you will need to hear that item.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. We will hear that item. We can have an abbreviated discussion?
That's certainly possible.
Yeah. Okay, we will hear agenda item 4.1. We will hear agenda item 4.2, conditional use permit for an accessory apartment, West 37th Street North and North 215th Street. Anybody on the commission wish to hear that item? Yes. We will hear agenda item 4.2. Agenda item 4.3, conditional use to allow personal care services on property zoned GO, general office, near West 13th Street and north of West Street. Anybody on the commission wish to hear that item? Seeing none, is there anybody at Century 2 wish to hear that item? Is there anybody by another device wish to hear that item? We will take agenda item 4.3 by consent. Agenda item 4.4, conditional use for major utility and general industrial located near South Meridian Avenue and south of West 87th Street. Anybody on the commission wish to hear that item? Seeing none, anybody at Century 2 wish to hear that item? Hearing none, anybody by another device wish to hear that item? Hearing none, we will take that item by consent. Agenda item 4.5, city zone change from B, multifamily, and GC to limited industrial located near South Washington Avenue and East Kellogg. Anybody on the commission wish to hear that item?
Mr. Foster.
We will hear agenda item 4.5. Okay, agenda item 4.6 had a recommendation of denial, so we will hear that item. Agenda item 4.7, the city zone change from NR to LC located near East Central Avenue, west of North Edgemore. Anybody on the commission wish to hear that item? Seeing none, anybody at Century 2 wish to hear that item? Hearing none there. Anybody from another device wish to hear that item? We will take 4.7 by consent. Agenda
Mr.
item-
Chair,
Yes.
I apologize. We did not speak up for item 4.4. We would like to hear that item.
Okay, that is the county conditional
Oh,
use
you-
for a major utility near South
Yes,
Meridian
sir.
Avenue. Okay. Strike for that from consent, and we will hear agenda item 4.4. Okay, agenda item 4.8, county zone change from rural residential to single family on 20 acres near East 63rd Street South and South 127th Street East. Anybody on the commission wish to hear that item? Seeing none, anybody at Century 2 wish to hear that item? Hearing none, is there anybody by another device wish to hear agenda item 4.8? Hearing none, we will take that by consent. Agenda item 4.9, city conditional use to allow safety services, including a future police station. We will hear agenda item 4.9. Agenda item 4.10, city zone change from SF5 to multifamily 18, located on the near West Texas Avenue and Sycamore Street. Anybody on the commission wish to hear that item? Hearing none. Anybody at Century 2 wish to hear that item? Hearing none. Is there anybody by another device wish to hear that item? And we will take that by consent.
I'll move for approval for items 4.3, 4.7, 4.8, and 4.10.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Hartman, a second by Mr. Green. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we will take that, do a voice vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously, 11-0. Okay. So, our first item to hear will be agenda item 2.2. Final plat North 40.
4.1
Oh, we already did
moved
that?
to public. I just had some questions on that.
Sure. Yeah,
Unless somebody wants to
No.
hear the whole thing.
let's get your questions.
Yeah, it appears as though, well, first of all, is fire department okay with just the one point of access? And then if the property to the east is zoned residential, then they will, I guess, have an access point to the property to the east, is that?
Yes, I need to correct the staff report. It appears item I, which mentioned the connection to the east, was left in the staff report. That was stricken by the subdivision committee. So the connection to the east is not required, so item I can come out. Item H, which discussed city fires, second point of access request. They were fine because the applicant actually is proposing 4 emergency access easements to the east and 1 to the west. So fire is more than happy with what they see.
Okay, thank you. That, I was, my penchant for single points of access for multiple lots, so thank you for that.
Any other questions on agenda item 2.2? Anybody at Century 2 want to hear anything more on agenda item 2.2? Hearing none, is there anybody else by another device wish to hear additional item on agenda item 4.2, North 45th edition?
Move for approval of 2.2.
Second?
We have a motion by Mr. Joe Johnson, and a second by Mr. Green. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. That passes 11-0. It looks like our next item is agenda item 2.10, is that correct? 2.8, 2.9 were deferred.
Right,
2.10.
2.10 is the Wenninger Highland Edition. This is located on the northwest corner of 77th and 199th Street in the county. This encompasses 2 lots. Zoning is RR Rural Residential. The property is designated as a rural growth area by our comprehensive plan. MABCD required their standard approval memo for on-site wastewater and on-site water wells. The drainage plan has been approved by County Public Works. Access controls were not shown on the plat. That has been requested to be shown by County Public Works. Item K of the staff report discussed rights-of-way. The current right-of-way at the corner is supposed to be a 75-foot major intersection. As you can see here, the applicant has only denoted a 30-foot right-of-way dedication, so County Public Works would like to see that increase to the standard of 75 feet. Then it tapers down to 60 feet on the remaining portions of those arterials. Per item L, the Central County Fire Department is requiring their standard compliance with the service drive code. And that concludes staff comments. Questions for staff?
Questions for staff? Okay, no questions from commission here. Anybody at Century 2 wish to have?
Yeah, that's who wanted to hear it.
Yes, we have the agent here for this item.
Okay,
Levi Bond with Caw Valley Engineering, 200 North Emporia, Suite 100. Agent for the applicant on this case. We're in agreement with all the staff comments except for K, requesting the additional right-of-way dedication. We ask that the commission approve a dedication of 30 feet, as we have denoted on this plat, as 30 feet of half street right-of-way. We're specifically making this request because the 30 feet matches the existing section line road.
we lost sound. Okay, try again.
You got me now?
Yeah,
Yep.
we have you now.
All right, sorry about that. So we're specifically making this request for the 30 feet of half-street right-of-way because it matches the current road easement, the section line road easement, as it has been since the state was established. It'll allow for the continued use and maintenance of this road as it is now. There's no clear and present need for an additional dedication. There are no plans to expand this road at this time or in the near future, as all of you probably know by just looking at the aerial. It's miles away from any semblance of a town. It's 3 miles away from Andale, 3 miles from Colwich, 5 miles from Mays, I think is the closest point of Mays. So it's not near any municipality. If you did require the additional right-of-way, it'd be over 1 acre of additional land that we dedicate, which would have real financial implications for our client, thousands of dollars, in fact. They're negatively impacted by this financially, but there's no benefit received from this dedication, as there are no plans, and then the road is already maintained by the township. Given all that information and the lack of need and the lack of compensation for the dedication, we request that you approve a 30 feet dedication along both 199th and 77th Street. I'd stand for any questions.
Any questions for the agent? Not, thank you. Anybody from the audience Is there anybody else there at Century 2 that would like to speak on this item?
No, that's the only comment.
Is there anybody from another device wish to speak on this item? You would have 3 minutes. I'm not hearing anybody. I'll bring it back to the commission for discussion.
Lynn Packer from County Public Works, I believe, wants to chime in.
Chairman, this is Lynn Packer with County Public Works. We are still requesting the additional right-of-way. Although we recognize that this is a rural section of the county, as you can see by the presentation that's up on the board right now, the township is very limited in what they can do with the right-of-way. Whenever these opportunities come up, the additional right-of-way allows them to more easily take care of the drainage out there. You can even notice in the corner clip, they can't even really grade around the corner without getting on private property because of the existing. So the townships appreciate these flats when they come through because they get the additional right-of-way and they can make improvements they weren't able to do before or without going through agreements with the property owners. Additionally, by state statute, the county is required to provide a location for utilities in the public right-of-way. As such, our policy denotes that we do not want them in the bottom of the ditch. Therefore, we provide shells on the backside of the right-of-way for them. And in this particular case, that's not possible. So, and there is no utility easement on the plat. So this would be the location for the property or for utilities in this location if we could have the right-of-way that's been requested.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Packer? Mr. Foster?
I would just follow up on Mr. Packer's comments at the subdivision level. We did discuss difficulty and challenges for township maintenance at these intersections relative to ditches and things. That was part of the discussion. I'm curious, Mr. Packer and Neil, does it work out to about an acre of ground that's lost just to do it? Seems a little strong to me. That would be lost to do this clip.
Yeah, I haven't done the calculations myself.
Neither have I.
Well, and also there is another question that we've had at the subdivision committee level, and that is these are a challenge. And we've got another case here today that went through one of these where you've got existing entrances and things like that and rights of way, and you're trying to balance policy, but yet how far can the subdivision committee go to disregard policy and weigh in, as Mr. Bond mentioned, that this is way down the road or something. So I think we need to have a discussion at the subdivision level, and I'll talk with the chairman more about it relative to that question. But anyway, there was considerable discussion at the subdivision meeting.
I guess my question for you, Mr. Foster, I mean, you know, those of us that are not on the subdivision committee rely pretty heavily. Do you have a recommendation of a compromise or an idea of what is appropriate in terms of the amount of easement or the way to work this?
I think there's two items. One is the discussion was that due to the maintenance concerns that it made every good sense to require the dedication on this particular one. However, there's still that broader question that if this is 20, 30, 40 years into the future, it does beg a question, when does it trigger that dedication? Okay. And there's discussion of contingent, but I think with this one, given the concerns for maintenance, we would stand, or the subdivision committee stood behind the staff report.
Additional questions for Mr. Packer? Mr. Hartman?
Could he not dedicate an easement there instead of the right-of-way for utilities?
Staff, you want to weigh in?
That would address, this is Lynn Packer again from County Public Works, that would address the one issue of utilities,
but it does not address the need for the township to have additional right-of-way to maintain the road and the drainage ditches in that area. Additionally, the discussion has been brought up about contingent right-of-way. And again, that is something County Public Works is not in favor of. We run into that situation here and there on vacation and projects today that were done many years ago. And nobody looks at the plat 2 owners later, and they've already occupied the conditional right-of-way with buildings or other facilities. And we end up having to we literally end up in an argument over it being there but not using it for 20 years and trying to come to an agreement on what is invoking that contingent right of way. This is something that is consistent throughout the county. It has been applied plat after plat, and therefore we are requesting that the standard right of way be dedicated in this case.
Mr. Green?
Yeah, Mr. Packer, would there be a viable option of just having the 60 foot of right-of-way along 77th and along 199th Street and not have the taper to the 75-foot width there at the intersection itself? I think then, with your point with the concerns of maintenance and ditch work and that type of thing, would 60 foot be a viable option instead of going to the full intersection width there?
That would definitely be preferred over what has the applicant's agent is proposing, provided that we had a 25-foot corner clip at the bottom. Our preference is to maintain the standard right of way just because this is something all the agents are out there, our engineers are out there watching this. They're going to come back with this every time they're on a county plat and request that they not get the additional right of way for the work around the intersections. And with more and more bike paths and work going on with New 2040, those types of additional right of way is being used more and more, and that would be our preference.
Additional questions from Mr. Packer? Mr. Johnson or Mr. Florence, do you guys have any questions?
No.
Okay. Yeah, are there any other speakers, anybody else out there that wish to speak on this item? I'm hearing none. Agent or applicant, if you'd like to come back, you will have 2 minutes for rebuttal. We lost our
Levi
connection.
Bond with Cobb Valley Engineering. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I agree with what Lynn is saying, and it might be a future need, and it's something they prefer, but it's not a need in the present, and it's asking an owner to dedicate real land, real property that has value for no benefit in the foreseeable future, and no promise of a benefit even in the future at all. Given that, we still maintain our request for a 30-foot half-street right-of-way dedication instead.
Any additional questions for the agent? Seeing none, thank you. Bring it back to the commission for action. Mr. Foster.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion, we approve per staff comments, including the right-of-way dedication as proposed by staff.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Is that Mr. Nix? I didn't see it. Hugh, did you make that second? Yes, okay. Motion by Mr. Foster, second by Mr. Nix. Any additional comments, questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed?
Aye.
Let's do a show of hands on the opposed. Okay, Mr. Bill Johnson, where do you stand on this one?
Opposed. Opposed.
You're opposed? Okay,
Yes.
so it passes 9 to 2. Okay. 10 to 2.10. 11 and 2.
Chairman, we have a
Yes.
comment from the public that on, case number 4.6, or I'm sorry, 4.8, that we voted on consent. Someone had been trying to comment in that they wanted to hear that. So
Okay, if they want to hear it, we will hear it. And, we're not gonna let,
you need to take a motion to rescind your earlier consent to allow that.
okay. Is there a motion to rescind the consent motion for agenda 4.8? Do we need to have this person that made the motion rescind it?
I think we should.
Okay, do you remember who made the motion?
Hartman made the motion to approve all the consent. Mr. Green seconded those.
Okay, would you amend, we got an attorney comment.
Oh, boy.
Thank you, Mr. Van Zant.
I would inquire whether the applicant or agent is still here. They may have left.
Good point. Do we know if the,
Hey, this is Matt at Century 2. Kirk Miller was here for this case, but when it went on consent, he went home. So there might be a chance if we put it at the end, we could give him a call and have him come back.
why don't we do, because if we can't, then we would be forced to defer.
Question. But
Question.
is that the same person that made that request on chat? Because the person that made the request on chat did not have access to a microphone.
It appears that they're calling in, they called in another device.
Okay. Let's do this. First off, let's remove our consent. So Mr. Hartman, would you amend your motion to remove 4.8 from the consent?
Yes, I'll amend my motion to remove 4.8.
And I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to remove 4.8 from the consent. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye. Aye.
Okay, we're all in favor on that. So now we will wait to determine whether we can do that later today or have to defer that to another date. So, was that Matt at Century 2?
Yes.
Mike, do you have the information to give them a call, see if we get the agent back online?
Yep, I can contact Kirk.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now I'm lost. Where are we at on the agenda?
4.1.
Ready for 4.1? Mr. Neal?
Neil Straw, Planning Staff. 4.1 is the amendments to our subdivision regulations. This pertains to safe field analysis and the term of special assessment petitions. Brief summary, in 2019, the development community wanted to see our requirements reviewed for safe yield to determine if the standards ensure that on-site water is available for platted lots. Experts indicated to us that the analysis does not provide an accurate indication if there's adequate water. Staff studied the issue and determined there's not a legal requirement for us to ensure the availability of on-site water when improving a plat. Therefore, staff recommended the safe field analysis be rescinded, and the proposed amendments are attached. The second part of the amendment regarding special assessment petitions, that was discussed by the Board of County Commissioners back in January. Pursuant to their discussion of the financing of subdivision improvements, staff prepared an amendment to add a maximum term for the special assessment petitions. The term would be consistent with the county debt financing policy, which is currently 15 years. Both of these amendments were recommended to be approved by the subdivision committee last week. The ordinance for City of Wichita and the resolution for the county are both also attached. Any questions for staff?
Questions for staff? Seeing none, is there anybody at Century 2 wish to ask questions of staff? Seeing none, Don't have anybody else we need to talk to, right? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the changes?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we take the recommended action.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Green, second by Ms. Miles. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, passes unanimously. I think those were delayed ayes that came in, so. Okay, agenda item 4.2, county conditional use permit.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Kathy Morgan for the Planning Department. Conditional 2020-11 was originally intended, the applicant asked for an accessory dwelling unit on the property as well as a new event center with appropriate parking. There was a Citizens Advisory Board meeting for Commission District 3 Monday night, and there was quite a bit of conversation about what was going to be happening at that location. This is the first agritourism site that's been allowed in the county. So Mr. Stockamer is already operating that agritourism business. So at the meeting, the neighbors wanted the accessory dwelling unit to be removed. And so Mr. Stockamer agreed to that. He does have, all of he has water wells, he has sewer, septic right now. When he does, the event center is going to have to be approved for the drainage septic system by the county. What you have is I attached a memo outlining new conditions to be considered. There was a lot of comment about the hours of operation. It was requested that the conditions include similar conditions that were done on the rustic timbers planned unit development, if any of you were on the commission at that time. So these 19 items that you have as a new conditions for consideration have included some of those items about lighting, noise. The county doesn't have a noise ordinance, so that creates a few issues. The height of the new event center, let's see, what else? He'll be able, the all rural residential uses that were permitted by right will still be allowed. Parking for the event center will be per the unified zoning code. He is requesting a maximum of 350 persons for the center. The drives and access, he's going to one access off 215th Street where you will, clients will access the parking, the on-site parking for the event center and other activities. There were a lot of concerns raised about on-street parking along 215th Street North and 37th Street West. There are a lot of farmers in that area and they cannot get their farming equipment past or through the road if there's any parking along those streets. The Citizens Advisory Board voted to defer their action on this until July 6th because they wanted more specific conditions to consider. So with that, I'll stand for any questions.
My first question is that the amended list that you gave us, that becomes a part of your staff report?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Green?
So the Citizens Advisory Board, they did or did not see these 19 items?
They did not see these
did
yet.
not.
They will hear these on July 6th, but these were developed from the comments that were made at that advisory board meeting.
Was there anything that could have possibly been left off of this list that was a concern of the Citizens Advisory Board? It looks very comprehensive,
Yeah.
I
I know that several people have sent emails in. I don't know if they're online or not. The applicant wants to speak, but I don't know if there's anybody out there that attended the advisory board meeting or not.
Okay.
Additional questions for Kathy?
So the recommendations recommend a maximum of 200 people at any one event.
You're looking at the staff report?
Yes.
And that needs to be replaced with the memo.
Okay.
There's a memo that has the new conditions that you should have received.
Does that increase that amount?
Yeah, 350.
Okay, 350, okay, just making sure.
According to the site plan that was submitted for the event center, there's one large room and 2 wings, and it appears to be about, here you go on the screen, about 8,100 square feet. So 350 is an appropriate number. Jim, would you go to the next slide, please? This is the main residence on that property. Next, this is looking south toward where the new parking or expanded parking area will be, and the new event center will be further east. That's an existing building that they currently use for, it's a small building, they have barbecues, that type of thing out there. This is looking southeast toward where the new event center will be, and of course they'll further develop parking there to accommodate the 350 persons maximum. A 1-to-4 parking ratio. They're going to have 88 spaces, and then some of those will meet the ADA requirements, and those will be concrete or hard surface. This was part of the original agritourism business. It's got a few gazebos and pergolas and a small, just a small facility where grooms can go to change and that type of thing. So that's what that is. Next. Jim, is there another slide? This is that barbecue facility. Next. Oh, and this is looking southwest. You see the house on the left, and then there's a 2-story building, and that building is where they currently have, they have smaller events there. They use it mostly for weddings. It has a 2nd floor where the bride changes and that type of thing. Next. This is just another look at the pergolas and gazebos that are throughout the vineyard there. And I guess that's all I have. If you have any other questions.
Ms. Dexler?
Yeah, just real quick for my clarification. So on the new conditions, we're not even looking at an accessory dwelling anymore.
Right,
That's been
yes,
taken
he
off,
agreed
right?
to remove the accessory dwelling. The need for it, it no longer exists.
Thank you.
Additional questions for staff? Mr. Florence, do you have any questions?
No.
Okay, Mr. Johnson, Bill Johnson?
No.
Okay. Is the agent or applicant available at Century 2?
He might be online.
State your
Can I
name and
be seen?
address for the record, and you will
Okay.
have 10 minutes.
Okay. My name is Dan Stockmer. I'm the owner of Prairie Hill Vineyard. And I want to thank the commission for the opportunity to speak to you. We were going to put up a granny unit there, but my daughter to live in, so she runs the business. But she bought a house in St. Mark, so we don't need it anymore. That's fine. And unfortunately, we did have some people parking on the road. We do not allow that generally, and so I'm going to only reinforce that all parking has to be on the property. So we have no problems with that. However, there are some conditions I need to address on this. On number one, the facilities to be open to the public. Really what this boils down to, if I could explain, we've been operating everything going great under agritourism. We simply, for the bride's sake, want to put up a building that will protect the bride's dinner from being ruined by rain or ruined by cold or wind. So we're forcing, to invest in an event center. But we still want to be agritourism. We want to be able, this says that we can only do things, we want to be able to have people drive onto the property. We've had flower shows there. We've had events all kinds of events, from family reunions to folks doing memorial services. And people come onto the property all the time. So we want to be able to allow that, a true agritourism. If you could understand, if you went to Sonoma County, which is where I moved from, we wanted to be able to provide people an experience in the country in a vineyard. And so that's what motivated us to begin doing this. So we
lost sound.
Back up.
Here we go, okay.
and can you hear me better now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now? Okay. So under agritourism, you can have farmers markets and this sort of thing. So it's a very wide open designation. And so I'm requesting that I be allowed to do the same thing we did. We just want to build a building. And I was told I had to plat in order to get a permit. We would have done a permit under agritourism if it would have been allowed. But since we're not only one of a few that have agritourism designation, I don't think we fit exactly in the current framework. I would have loved just to do a building without having to plat the property. The other thing is on the backside on 16, right now we allow music until 11 o'clock. And I was willing to back it up all the way to 10 o'clock. We generally don't do weddings during the week. And I would back it up to 10 o'clock on Sunday night. We've only had through 3 years, a couple of comments called in where we had music too loud and we immediately turned it down. So we do that right now. We are in good relationships with almost all of our neighbors, as far as I know, but they brought up these things about the noise. And so, but we want to be able, if the kids are having a good time, keeping the music low, run it all the way to 11 and 10 o'clock on Sunday night. And the other thing is we have a liquor license out there. We've been doing this for over a year, and we have a permit from Sedgwick County to do that. So it says here not to have a liquor license. Well, if they make us not have a liquor license, I'll just have to have somebody else get it and put it on the property. So it makes sense to me, since we've been doing it and we've had no problems. We monitor that very closely, working with the state. We control all liquor coming onto the property. We do not allow anybody to bring liquor onto the property other than what we provide. That's why we have our own place there where they buy it, because we do not allow people to bring liquor onto the property. So with that said, I'd just like to answer any questions. I guess my main request that would solve most of this is if we were afforded the rights that I have under agritourism, everything works pretty good. The other request is that we could run music all the way to 11 on Friday and Saturday nights. Any other night, I don't have a problem with 10 o'clock. And I promise to keep people off the road the best of my ability and make it the most beautiful rural venue in the county. So any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
We'll start with any questions for the speaker. Mr. Foster.
Mr. Stockmer, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
My first question is, will there still be a principal structure on the site? I can't tell. I'm looking at two different drawings here, and they're different. Will there
This
be
is
a
the farm I
principal?
grew up on. This is the pasture I used to get cows out of when I was a kid. My mom and dad built a house there in 1978. When I moved back from Sonoma County, I live on the property. And yes, I plan on staying there until I die. And so I do live on the property, but somebody's got to take care of it. There's a lot of beautiful roses and flowers and trees and a lot of mowing. So that's my job.
And this is part of the first question. I'm not understanding why you would want to give up the possibility of an accessory dwelling when we generally support that.
Yeah, I know. It really wouldn't be a problem, but I really don't care to have it if it wasn't for my daughter. And one of the neighbors, for whatever reason, didn't want me to put up a 750 square foot small house for her. So I gladly said, fine, I'll take that off. I really don't need it now because I was only doing it as a benefit for my daughter and hopefully her soon-to-be husband. They didn't want to live in the house with me, so I was going to put them in a unit next door. And I figured I might retire there someday. But it's okay with me not to have the accessory unit. The bigger concerns, of course, are just how we can run the business as we have been running it. And it's been successful. I think we have over 50 5-star ratings on the internet. People say it's the most beautiful place. I have people from out of state come there. It's one of the most beautiful places in the state. And we want to make it a real benefit to the county as well. So that's why I'm requesting that we are able to make it an agritourism property.
And my second question is, have you had a chance to study the 19 conditions in the revised staff report?
Is that what this is right here? That's what I'm looking at, yes. And the only reason some of these were put in is because Commissioner Dennis said, we'll put in the same ones that are on the folks down at the Rustic Timbers, who are good friends of mine. I'm saying that all of this is just added unnecessarily, and it sort of puts a crimp on our business. It does, especially if you have a daughter out there and they're having a good time. If it's a Friday or Saturday night, I really think they ought to be allowed to go to 11. The closest neighbor is on my home place a quarter mile away. Most everybody else is over a half mile away, and we really try to control the sound. That's not the big issue. It's just we will turn it off when people leave at 11 o'clock. So that's why I'm speaking, to address some of the issues that were on those 19 paragraphs. And all of the issues I addressed were those that I felt need to be addressed that were in the 19 paragraphs.
Thank you.
Mr. Stockmeyer, stay at the microphone. I got a question for staff, but I don't want you to step away yet. The question about a liquor license, is that something, is that a state requirement? I don't know if this is a legal question, or what authority do we have? Do we have
Mr. Warren,
flexibility here?
Yes, we do have flexibility. As he said, this regarding the liquor, if someone brings it in, they have to have a licensed bartender. But it sounds like I was not aware that they had their own liquor license. So I don't see this as being a problem unless Justin has additional comment.
Justin Wagoner, Assistant County Counselor. I don't know that I have much to add other than if he has the appropriate liquor license already in place, I don't think there would be any need to require anything further.
So we can eliminate any additional conditions.
Is it a CMB license?
He runs a vineyard there.
Okay.
And he's able to.
Sure.
Dave here out with planning staff. The applicant runs a vineyard at this location. Under the state laws governing vineyards, they are able to sell their own wine and facilities there and also allow consumption on site. So it's that body of law that I think he was talking about earlier that he does now. What we're talking about within the conditions is that and that's also consistent with our zoning laws, and that if they provide other alcohol beverages at an event, there's a whole other body of laws that come into play. And that's kind of what we're talking about with these conditions, which is standard on all of the event center operations that we've done within the county. You either have a vendor or a caterer come in with their license, or if the owner decides they want to do that, then they have to get their own liquor license, and that takes the approval for the event center. We've got, I think, some confusion of going on here with regard to what's going on. One other background information I think that's relevant, and I hope everybody understands. The applicant actually owns, and I think you got a quarter section there that he owns. He carved off this smaller acreage because when he first approached about getting a permit for the dwelling, he had to create another lot to do that. That required, because it would be 2 lots on less than 20 acres, it took a plat. That's what triggered this whole thing to start. And when the plat was first proposed and he created a second lot, which meant part of this was 18 acres, in order for the ag tourism activity to occur by right in the rural residential, it's got to be larger than 20 acres. We've split the property down to less than. That's why we're here. There's a whole bunch of other issues, the background of why this is before us today. Under the conditions you've got today, it takes the conditional use to allow him to accommodate and address the operation. I know he's saying, I just want to do what I was doing. It's just, well, there are other dominoes that fell because of things that he chose to do within the last year. That's why we're where we are today. And I realize also you're just getting these additional conditions that kind of were crafted after last Monday night's meeting that took some time for Kathy to put together and communicate with the applicant and everyone else. So it kind of smells like it could be advisable to consider a deferral in this case until a later date for everybody to have a chance to look through all this stuff and make sure. I don't want to kill the conversation, but there's a lot here, and I think there may be other people who want to talk too. Right. So.
Okay, Mr. Stockmeyer, you have any last minute comments before we open it up for additional comments?
Yes, I will gladly take away that lot if I knew that was going to cause the problem, or I will add some land. If I need 20 acres there, I carved a little lot off because I have somebody that wanted to live on and I thought that would be nice for them, but they've since decided they don't want to move there. So I don't care about that lot. If I can keep my 20 acres and have it as I guess we currently have it by right, then my only request is a building permit. And I don't mind taking away, I want 20 acres, actually. I want to be able to do this by right. And there is 20 acres on that corner, and I have another 100 acres that I can put on it if necessary. But it's more about just getting the building permit. That's what started all of this. I was told I needed to plat in order to get a building permit. If I could apply for a building permit under my agritourism designation, then all of this would not have been necessary.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Let's go on to see if there are any additional questions for staff.
Mr. Stockmer, did you say that you have, I understand you've got a winery there and you serve wine, but didn't you in your opening comments state that you have a liquor license also? Or was I mistaken?
We're not actually, when we serve wine, we serve the wine from the fruit that we sell to Grace Hill Winery. We're allowed by state law then to sell their wine on our property. But when we have weddings, people want to have beer, they want to have mixed drinks. So we proceeded to get an actual liquor license, had it in place over 2 years, and we were approved by Sedgwick County to have that liquor license.
Okay.
So that's why I am bringing it to your attention, because number 17 does not conform with what we are doing now.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on. Is there anybody else there at Century 2 that wishes to speak on this item?
May I say one thing?
Quickly, we're running out of time.
I'd like to just sit down with somebody and see if we could get a building permit. I don't know if the attorney there could help me. How can we get a building permit without having to do all of this? Just put it on my agritourism. I'm willing to plat the property and keep it at 20 acres so that we can just get the building permit.
Okay, let's complete the process we're at here now. We may have a different decision in a few minutes, but let's go through here. Mr. Foster, it looked like you had a question. Do you want to go on to the other speakers before we bring it back for some other discussion items?
Is it possible for him to just withdraw the case?
Let's find out if there's other speakers. Is there anybody else out there? Is there anybody at Century 2 that wants to speak? Matt, we got anybody there?
Nope, that's it. Here at
Okay.
Century 2.
Is there anybody from another device that wishes to speak on this item? That's called in either by phone or by online device. Okay, I'm not. Caller 13, is there? Okay, doesn't. Not hearing anybody. Okay, let's move on. Attorneys. You've heard the request of the applicant. Is it even possible to just do a building permit without planning? Is that,
Well, let me back up. You know, I can't give legal advice to him. I haven't looked at this in depth in terms of the building permit issue. At this point, just so that I can get clarity, and planning staff may be able to assist, but I think we're talking about a commercial building permit. Would that be accurate, Dave?
That's what, yeah. Yeah, it went beyond, because when the applicant chose to carve off the proposed lot for the other individual to build a house, that created the less than 20 acre parcel, that made this a commercial building permit. It was no longer classified as an ag. And we don't have an ag tourism category in our codes. That's a designation the state gives, but it doesn't have anything to do with us. There's a lot of other issues that are kind of laying on the table here. What I would recommend, given what the applicant's asking, because this plat's already been approved. I think it's all, I don't know, I can't tell you the status of whether or not it's gone all the way to the county commission yet, but it's gone through this process. I would suggest we just defer this and put it on the July 9th meeting and let us see if we can get all this stuff resolved. If it has not been recorded, there may be able to get the applicant to modify all this stuff to where we make all this stuff go away. But it's going to take some time to sort out really all that, because there's a lot of things that we were told in the beginning that also was discussed with the permit folks and Mr. Dixon with county codes that pushed this to why we're even here. And what we were hearing last fall versus what we're hearing now is a whole different story.
okay, thank you. Mr. Stockmeyer, are you still there?
Yes, sir. I am.
Okay, I have a question for you.
Very much.
The question is, based on the discussion that you've heard here, would you prefer that we push through with the decision today, or would you prefer to defer to a later date?
I think we need to defer for everybody's sake. I'd like to sit down with the county people and say, let's get rid of that 2 acres then, if that's going to make this so difficult. I think that's probably what's going to have to happen, because I don't want to proceed right now and put you in a place of saying yes or no on all of this. I think we should hold off.
Thank you. I want to entertain a motion to defer in just a moment. Before I do,
So moved.
this is I still have the floor. Yeah, this is one of those deals that we try to encourage business, and we encourage people to do it, and then we bury them in bureaucracy. Let's try to figure out a way to come up with an answer that uses the laws that we have without getting too difficult. I know that we just can't foo-hoo our laws and our rules and regulations, but let's figure out a way to make this as easy as we can. Is there a motion to defer?
Second.
And a motion by Mr. Joe Johnson, second by Ms. Miles. Additional discussion. Mr. Bill Johnson, you got anything you want to add?
No, I think I'd second your comments.
Mr. Florence, you got anything you want to add?
No.
Okay, all those in favor of the, we got,
Chairman, I just want, can we clarify that till the 9th, so we got time to get all this resolved?
to what?
July 9th.
July 9th?
After the July 5th meeting.
Yeah. well,
Okay,
that will
so we
work.
defer to July the 9th? That is the motion. Is that the second?
Yes.
Okay. Motion is to defer to July the 9th. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? No opposition. Passes unanimously. We'll defer that to July the 9th. Okay. 4.4. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Who's presenting 4.4? Conditional use of major utility. Take your time. Take your time, but hurry up.
Ow. No more coffee for you.
This is Matt.
Kathy Morgan for planning staff presenting for Matt Williams. This is, according to the case history on this site, in 1966, the commission approved rezoning of this site except the perimeter, which is a 300-foot perimeter from R rural residential to, at that time, was F heavy industrial. And that which allowed the use of a gas processing plant on the site. The applicant is requesting a conditional use to bring the property into zoning compliance and allow the construction of an additional storage building. It's currently, the existing site is currently being used for vehicle and equipment storage in the old compressor building, a pig launch for cleaning pipelines, metering, outside storage, and a communication tower. These activities can be classified in the Unified Zoning Code as a utility major and can be authorized by a conditional use in RR and GI zoning. Recommendations of staff are that screening shall be provided on all sides of the property. The site is to be developed as shown on the Hayesville Station Yard site plan dated March 13th, 2020 by PEC engineers. Any changes to the site or screening plan shall be reviewed and approved by the Director of Planning prior to issuance of building permits. And then the standard language is if there's any violations of these conditions, the conditional use can be declared null and void. And in your packet, there are the minutes from the Hayesville Planning Commission of April 23rd, 2020. And they make the recommendation to approve with the conditions that were mentioned in the staff report. And with that, I'll try to answer questions, or Matt is in Century 2.
Any questions for
There you
staff?
go.
he could have presented.
On this, recommendation by Hayesville, they were talking about screening just the west half of the north property line.
The west half of the north property line.
Yeah, that didn't make sense to me either.
Matt, do you have any comments on that? Matt?
Yeah, at the Hayesville Planning Commission, there was a lot of discussion about the screening and how the applicant was requesting less screening since it's such a large property. I know the agent for the applicant is on, and she can talk a little bit more about that.
Okay, any additional questions for staff? Okay, agent or applicant, they can come forward, state their name and address for the record. They have 10 minutes.
Good afternoon. My name is Rebecca Melius. I am the agent for the applicant with Professional Engineering Consultants on 303 South Topeka here in Wichita. We are in agreement with staff comment, obviously with two exceptions. One, I want to just clarify the site plan as of 313 was revised to 422, which shows the full future development, which modifies some parking areas. So I just want to clarify that that is the site plan that we would like to have been reviewed. I believe it was this. Matt, I don't know if we got that updated on the slides or not. I thought we showed it at Hayesville's Planning Commission, but maybe we didn't. It just shows the future parking areas along the existing pipe storage, which you see running north-south along the west property line. And then obviously the screening requirement. As Matt mentioned, we went through very thorough discussion with the City of Hayesville Planning Commission in regards to the limits of the screening requirements. Screening on all sides is not only cost prohibitive, but also screening along Meridian is of great concern with the travel of any large vehicles. There are semi-trucks that are coming in multiple times a week, and any kind of screening along that west line would just be a dangerous situation, honestly, to anyone on Meridian. The reason we got to the recommendation we did of the west half of that north property line is because the total future improvements to include upgrades to that pipe storage area and the proposed structure, which is on the south side of the existing drive, are all within that 300-foot residential buffer, which is how our client is out of compliance with the previous zoning. So the intent there was that any screening that was provided along that north side would help protect the adjacent residents along the north from seeing that pipe storage area any more than they do. To be honest, they have heavy trees along their south property line, which currently protects them as well. So I would stand for any additional questions.
Questions for the agent? Not seeing any here. Mr. Bill Johnson or Terrell Florence, you guys have any questions for the agent?
No.
Okay, thank you.
No.
Anybody else at Century 2 want to speak on this item?
No one else here at Century 2.
Okay. Is there anybody on another device that wishes to speak on this item? Seeing that, I'll bring it back to the commission.
I'll move for approval, subject to the revision on the screening on the north property line, which will match what Hayesville's planning department approved.
Okay, have a motion?
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Hartman, a second by Mr. Green. Everybody understand the motion? Any additional questions or comments?
I do want to point out that if that revised site plan wasn't in there, I know the staff report took that into consideration, so I'll make sure that that revised site plan gets in this file.
Okay. Seeing no additional questions, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Is that a delayed yes?
That's correct.
Sorry, I have a hard time waiting for the delay to get that in. It always comes in and it sounds like it's a no, so that passes unanimously. Okay, agenda item 4.5. Zone change from B multifamily and general commercial to limited industrial.
Good afternoon, Planning Commissioners. Philip Ziebenbergen with Planning Staff. The item before you today is a zone change as well as a conditional use request on a property located on the east side of South Washington, south of Kellogg, as you can see from this map. The request for the zone change is to rezone it from B multifamily and GC general commercial to LI limited industrial, to allow the use of a wreckage and salvage yard for electronics, appliances, and household and yard equipment with business items and medical items that are not hazardous. The property is addressed 716 and 722 South Washington. This requires a conditional use based on the supplementary use regulations found in the Unified Zoning Code. The property is has been in business for some time. They're bringing their property into compliance with this request. It is the American E-Waste Recyclers, which has been in existence since 2006. According to their webpage, the company strives to keep the electronic waste out of landfills that take products that use electricity or batteries. Individuals or corporations can drop off their items. Individuals or corporations also can come pick up their items for their use as well. No person is allowed on the property except for the employees. All products are unloaded from the drop-off area into the yard by the employees as well. If you go to the aerial, you can see that there is a fence along Washington, and access to the property actually uses the alleyway. If you're not familiar with the area and you drive down Washington, it's a 6-foot screening fence already. They just have a banner for their sign saying they're there. There's no access to the property. You really can't even see any of the materials from Washington at all. All of the access is from 2 gates, one on the north side of the property and one on the south side of the property along the alley. And that's where all the transactions and business takes care of. A wreckage and salvage yard means a lot, land, or structure or part thereof that used for the collection, dismantling, storage, and salvage of machinery, equipment, appliances, inoperable vehicles, vehicle parks, bulk waste, salvage material, junk, and discarded materials, or the sale of those parts thereof. Typical uses are for motor vehicles, salvage yard, or junk yards. There's also some supplementary use regulations that set conditions found in section 3D6E. One says that the operation of this use cannot be abutting in an arterial street. Therefore, with this request, the applicant is requesting a waiver of that because Washington is a arterial street. In cases in the past when we've had them abutting arterial streets, there's kind of been a rule set in place that at least if you're 150 feet off of the arterial, you wouldn't be considered abutting. Well, this lot is barely 150 feet or greater, so there's no way to be far enough off. They're about 25 or 30 feet off the street, so they're asking a waiver of the supplemental use regulation number 1. Other regulations in there is the operation in the opinion the Planning Commission will not adversely affect the character of the neighborhood. And number 3 is it should be enclosed by a fence or wall not less than 8 feet in height and having cracks or openings not in excess of 5% of the area of the fence. If you want to go to the site plan, Jim, you can see that the area consists of several structures. There's a garage kind of in the orange, and then you can see the 2 arrows that locate a gazebo and a carport. The garage is used for the storage of tools and is an office. No items for customer pickup are warehoused in or sold out of the garage. The other 2 structures, which are the gazebo and the carport, these structures are used for a shaded workspace. As I said before, though, it is abutting South Washington. All this access to the site is from the alleyway. The site has a 6-foot privacy fence running along the north and south property lines. The wooden fence on the west of the yard is about 45 feet from the west property line. The fence along the east property line is a chain link fence. The height of the solid wood fence is not in compliance with the use regulations. In addition, the chain link fence along the alley is not in compliance either. The east fence will have to be improved to solid screening. This also includes the gates. They cannot be chain link fence either. The site will also have to come into compliance with the landscape ordinance. Washington is an arterial road. The ordinance requires that all non-residential uses have a landscape street yard when it's abutting arterial streets. Based on the dimensions of the subject site, the landscape street yard would consist of 2 shade trees or 4 ornamental trees, or an approved combination of the two. Therefore, only 1 more shade tree is required to satisfy the landscape requirement. You can see on the site plan that 1 is already present on the west side. In addition to solid screening, the landscape ordinance also requires a buffer when adjacent to non-residential zoning. When you go across the alleyway, it's zoned residentially, and so they would be required to have a landscape buffer on the east side, which would consist of a total of 3 trees. The equation for that is 1 tree for every 40 linear feet. They don't have to be spaced 40 feet apart. The landscape ordinance does allow them to cluster those trees. Finally, they have to come into compliance with the parking. This would require 2 parking stalls to be placed on site within an approved all-weather surface as set forth by the zoning code. Property to the north of this, Jim, if you go to the zoning map, is general commercial and is a commercial distribution operation. Property to the south is also general commercial, as is across the street on Washington is all general commercial zoning. You can see that further west across the alley from the properties that front Washington on the west side, all of that is limited industrial, so there's a high concentration of limited industrial already in existence on the site. Properties to the north and south have had variances to them, as well as administrative adjustments, some to reduce parking requirements, some to eliminate landscape screening requirements. Particularly to the south, the landscape screening requirement, the building was already there, and the amount that they were adding onto the building and expanding it was going to kick in the landscape ordinance, and they would have to have torn down a portion of their building because it was right up on the alley, and so that one was approved to eliminate the landscape buffer on the east side of their building because it was residential zoning across the alley. Their building earlier was grandfathered in until they expanded it further and expanded the business, and so that's why they got a variance for that. And property to the east is B multifamily with single-family homes. According to the comprehensive plan, this is within the established central area, which encourages infill construction. It does indicate that the site is best used for residential, but as you can see, there's a high amount of commercial along the frontage of Washington. So though the comprehensive plan does encourage residential, with the excess of commercial along there is not an unreasonable request, especially with limited industrial nearby. Staff is recommending approval of this subject to a protective overlay. And that is basically limiting the site to general commercial uses except for the use of wreckage and salvage, which is permitted by limited industrial, and that would be permitted by the conditional use permit. The conditional use for the wreckage and salvage will restrict it to electronics, appliances, household and yard equipment, business items, and medical items that are not hazardous. So basically everything they're doing today. No hazardous waste shall be stored on the site, and nor shall the site store any wreckage or salvage materials related to vehicles. So they cannot have any inoperable vehicles or parts thereof of a vehicle to do wrecking or salvage. The conditional use is contingent upon a waiver of the supplemental use regulation, that number 1 of it abutting an arterial street. They have to submit a revised site plan to us within 60 days, showing all the necessary requirements for compliance with the landscape ordinance as well as parking. The height of any material stored on site shall not exceed the height of the screening fence or be visible from ground level view from any public right-of-way or adjoining properties. It shall be entirely enclosed by the screening fence, not less than 8 feet in height, so they have to come into compliance with the fence requirement. The applicant shall maintain at all times an active program for eradication and control of rodents. Weeds shall be controlled within the salvage area and adjacent to and alongside the perimeter of the screening fence. Any locking devices on the gates shall meet the fire department requirements. Access to the property shall be provided for ongoing inspections by environmental services. Any on-site storage of fuels, oils, chemicals, or hazardous waste materials shall be prohibited. Applicant shall implement a drainage plan approved by the city engineer prior to the commencement of the operations that minimizes non-point source contamination. So basically they need to get that done since they're already in operation. And then the site shall be maintained in general conformance to the site plan and the conditions of approval. You do have at your desks a letter from a resident, and they've also attached information that they've provided as to what they found of how landfills can affect land, just for your review and consideration. This did go before District 1 Advisory Board this last Monday. They did recommend approval of it. There was no one who spoke in opposition at the DAB meeting. I can go through the pictures for you.
Let's see if there's any questions.
I'm going to go through the site pictures real quick.
Okay.
Real quick. This is looking east across the street from the alley. You can see how close, like I'm standing right on the fence, so it's obviously now it's not very big. You can keep going, Jim. Go through these. Looking north along the alley, the proximity of the residential houses. This is looking at the south gate. Obviously, you can see with the chain link fence that will have to come into compliance because you can see through it and see all their materials that are stored there. This is the north gate, looking at the garage. This is looking northwest along Washington. The commercial uses across the street. This is looking south along Washington at the commercial uses. This is looking north along the alley. I'm further down. The site you can see is actually further up. These buildings you see in front of there are the ones who actually had the variance because of their expanded building and not being able to meet the landscape requirements. So the use is actually closer up to that more second-story looking building. This is looking at the site from across Washington. You can see that the screening fence is there. You can see the tops of the garage and the carport, but you can't see any of the materials that are stored on site. They have a well-manicured lawn there. They would just need to provide one additional shade tree. This is looking at the building north of the site along Washington and looking south along Washington at the abutting properties. Any questions for staff?
Mr. Green.
Philip, I see where they're wanting us to overlook the abutting the arterial street requirement. What do we have in the recommendations that would prevent them from using the two drive approaches that are on their property, one for each lot? It's a two-lot property. It appears to me that they could, if they were so inclined, could go and just put a driveway in and have access to the arterial street there to the west.
Actually, as of right now, you're right. We actually don't have anything in the conditions that would restrict them to not having access on Washington.
Yeah, and I think it's important that if this is approved, that we need to either probably close those curb cuts and make it so that they cannot have approach to that, since they're wanting us to overlook the fact that it is on an arterial.
Additional questions for staff?
Philip, so how is what they plan to do under this new zoning different than what they're currently doing?
This is bringing them into compliance with the zoning code.
Okay,
the way this site is zoned currently, half of it's zoned multifamily, and zoning or wreckage and salvage is not permitted in GC.
Right.
So they're just bringing everything into compliance with the zoning and the conditional use.
Good question.
So, I don't know if you can ask this or not, but so Hebner TV must own this business as well.
Yes, they own the site and they lease it to the
So it's
tenants
just
who
sort of an
operate this
extension of
business.
what they do. I mean, as far as repairing TV's.
The applicant could probably weigh in a little bit more. I do know that they own the site and that they lease it to tenants who operate it.
Okay, any additional questions for staff? Seeing none, agent or applicant? Are you there at Century 2 or by remote device? State your name and address for the record, and you have 10 minutes.
Hi, this is Greg Hefner, Hefner TV and Electronics. My address is 2704 North Wilderness. We've looked at the staff report. I've worked closely with Philip and Tina Henry before him. They've been very, very good to point out what we need to do. Tried to do everything we could to get this in compliance. As he mentioned, the business that's there has been there since 2006. To the previous question, we do not own it. We have no affiliation with that business. We're simply a tenant who rents that space from us, from our property. I have gone through the staff report with the tenant, all the requirements that are being asked. We have no problem with any of those requirements. We think we can do those without any issue whatsoever. The only question I had came from a question that was asked a minute ago about the access from Washington. There's a fence there. We'll maintain that fence. There's plans for us all to use those approaches for vehicles. I have no problem putting a stipulation that says that we can't use it as long as that tenant is there. But if that tenant were to move at some point, we were to build a building or something instead, I just want to make sure we're not restricting or cutting that off from access down the road. Be my only request. But other than that, we are comfortable with the staff report. We agree with everything they say and are very comfortable proceeding.
Any questions for the applicant? Mr. Green.
Yeah, Mr. Hefner, so you would be, you're wanting us to waive the condition that it's on, that this is abutting an arterial street, yet we have curb cuts, we have driveways there on that arterial street that go to the property. I feel it's kind of important that we curb those up because anybody could use those. I mean, 2 weeks down the road after this is approved, the tenant could decide to put a driveway, use that driveway and have access to the arterial road that we're being asked to exclude from our decision making. But you're opposed to closing those up?
I appreciate that. Just for future use, if that's what the commission requests, and we'll certainly comply with that. But it's just for future use. That tenant won't be there forever, and so I just want to make sure we're not restricting the use of the property down the road that would somehow limit our ability to do other work in their build or whatever we need to do.
Yeah, we could. I mean, you could curb that up. Take the driveways out, the approaches out, curb that up, and then down the line, if you have a new tenant, then you could put a driveway back in. I think the temptation though is if it's there, they might want to try to use it, and I don't know that that's something that we should.
But my fear would be, I think what I'm hearing the applicant say is, once I give it up, is there any chance that somebody would prevent me from putting it back in at a later date? And we need to make sure that we put something in writing in this that does not eliminate permanently their right to use that as a driveway if circumstances change.
Well, we'd have to change the zoning back then if they have some other use.
Another option could possibly be put some kind of a block on it that would make it require a parking block or something that would render that approach unusable.
That would work. If Mr. Hefner, would you be agreeable to doing that?
To do what again?
It's basically a step, putting in some parking blocks that would make it impractical to use the drive, but that could be removed at a later date if the use changed.
No problem doing that. Yes, I'd appreciate that. I can tell you the only person that uses it now is the lawnmowers when they go in there twice a month to mow the grass. So don't anticipate any issues there. But yes, that'd be great. I could do parking blocks if that's what you prefer.
Additional questions for the applicant? Seeing none, thank you, sir. Is there anybody else out there, either at Century 2 or from another device, that would like to speak on this issue? I'm hearing none, so I'll bring it back to the commission.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the application as presented with the 15 items, and I'd like to add one more, that the applicant install parking blocks at those driveways.
Okay, is there a second? We have a motion by Mr. Green, a second by Mr. Dool. Any additional comments? See attorney rising to the occasion.
Oh, boy.
Mr. Van Zant.
Thank you. I just request the applicant consult with engineering, because blocks put on an arterial have to be back a certain distance. There's certain requirements on that. So not to having put them on and then having to get a ticket for having to put them on in the correct place.
Are you good with that, Mr. Hepner?
Yes, thank you. I will do that.
Okay. Seeing no further questions, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Passes 11-0. Okay, agenda item. I know, I gotta wait for it. It's hard to do. 4.6.
Agenda item 4.6 is Zone 2020-11. This is Philip Ziebenbergen presenting on behalf of Matt Williams. For this application, the applicant filed a zone change request to rezone the subject property from SF5 single family to GC general commercial. As you can see on the map in front of you, it is located on the east side of South Waco, near West 31st Street South. The applicant would like to rezone the property to GC to allow the storing of equipment trailers outdoors, material storage indoors, and a fifth wheel camper trailer hookup. The applicant has been conducting much of this activity up until now and was recently informed of his violation since it was in an SF5 zoning district. General commercial is the first district available for storage outdoor as a principal use on the property. The west half of the site is mostly vacant, and if you want to go to the aerial, Jim, in both the northeast and the southeast corners of the property are two shed-appearing structures. The property has a wooden privacy fence in the north, east, and south sides. The west side facing Waco has a mixture of wrought iron and chain link fence, and we've got some site pictures for you at the end of the presentation. Rezoning the subject property GC would allow a mixture of residential, public, civic, and commercial uses outlined in the zoning code. If you want to go back to the zoning map, there are several instances of GC zoning within one block, specifically mostly heavily along Broadway, but there is one block to the east right there at Wichita and 31st Street South. The majority of the rest of the neighborhood is SF5 with single-family homes. There is an instance of limited commercial zoning fronting West 31st Street South, as well as Wichita Street, directly abutting this property to the north and the east. But that site, the site to the east of that is vacant. The site facing 31st Street South does have a small strip commercial building on it. The comprehensive plan indicates this area as appropriate for residential, and staff is recommending denial of this case just based on the inappropriate nature of general commercial within kind of that deep within a SF5 zoning district. Even though it's nearby, the majority of it is on the arterial roads, especially Broadway and 31st Street South. However, every time we provide a denial recommendation, we do give you the opportunity, if it is in your opinion, that you want to pursue approval of this request to approve the GC zoning with a protective overlay, and I'll go through several of those items. It's pretty beefy and heavy hitting. In general, it would restrict all the uses down to limited commercial except for the outdoor storage. And you can see a pretty standard list of use exceptions to that. I'm not going to go through every single one of them, but they're pretty standard ones that would not be appropriate for the area. It would be required to have a landscaped street yard along Waco at 1.5 times the landscape ordinance. The landscape buffer would not be less than 20 feet wide. The screening constructed of standard building materials or an approved landscape buffer shall be provided along the south and west property lines. The screening must be kept graffiti free. and maintained in a presentable fashion. As you'll see from some of the site pictures we have, that's not the case at this point. Outdoor lighting sources would have to be cut off luminaries, which is pretty standard. It would be allowed one sign that was monument style that would have to adhere to the city codes. Portable signs, offset signs, banners, and string pendants would not be permitted. Height limit would be limited to 35 feet. Access to the site would be permitted by the City of Wichita Public Works, so they'd be allowed on the site. A site plan would be submitted for review by the planning director, and it would have to show all the building locations, parking and circulation plans, signage, screening, and indicate the size and location of landscape buffer areas. Outdoor speakers or any amplification systems are not permitted. Any major changes to the site plan would have to be submitted to planning and go through the public hearing process from item 12. They would have to submit a ordinance, or prior to the publication of the ordinance, they have to submit a document to the Register of Deeds saying that there's considerable restrictions on this property. The applicant has 30 days to submit 4 copies of the site plan to the planning department. If they fail to meet that deadline, then the case would be deemed denied and closed. And then last standard one, if the zoning administrator finds that they're in violation of any of these conditions, from here forward, if it were to be approved, would have the ability to enforce zoning upon him. Staff feels that with the conditions of the protective overlay, if you do choose to move for approval of this, that should help minimize the detrimental impacts on surrounding property owners, since there is limited commercial nearby, limiting it just the outdoor storage with the screening, beefed up screening, and the materials that would be required would help buffer and visually lessen the impact of this use on the property. And we can go through the site pictures, Jim. This is looking east, but at the property to the north, that's that small strip center on the property that's zone limited commercial. This is looking southeast at the site. You can see that it's kind of a hodgepodge of screening materials there on the west side of the property. It has considerable graffiti on it right now. I think there's just one more. This is looking directly east at the site. Again, just a mixed mash of materials and a chain link fence for a gate. Oh, there's one more. This is the proximity of a single family home or residential unit to the screening fence as there is now for this property. This is looking across the street at the homes across on the west side of Waco. I can stand for any questions. Matt is in Century 2 and he may be able to elaborate on some of these as well. I believe the gentleman who called in on the phone was the applicant for this case, and we can go from there.
Questions for staff? Mr. Foster.
I apologize, Mr. Foster. I have one comment. This was heard by District Advisory Board 3 last night, and they recommended denial.
Thank you.
For both possible zoning.
My assumption is and Matt can elaborate, he participated in the District Advisory Board meeting. My understanding is they just recommended flat out denial, no zone change.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Foster.
That is correct. They heard the potential overlay and they still recommended denial.
Okay, thanks.
Philip, my question is on page 2, it references, and a fifth wheel camper / trailer hookup. Would that continue?
I'm not aware.
Or would it be allowed?
Excuse me, this is Mr. Cameron. Can I say something about that real quick?
Not yet.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So we have to wait.
I'm sorry, I missed the question. Can you state that again?
What was the question, Dave?
The question is, would the fifth wheel camper trailer hookup continue if the overlay were allowed?
I don't believe so. That's not an allowed use within the limited commercial district.
Thank you.
Additional questions for staff? Seeing none, we'll open the floor to the agent or applicant. I assume Mr. Cameron. Are you at Century 2 or from another location?
On mobile telephone.
Okay, state your name and address for the record, and you have 10 minutes.
Al Cameron. The property that we're discussing is 3218 South Waco.
Okay.
Okay, first on the misunderstanding, there's not going to be a hookup there. It's my personal fifth wheel. It's 2010. It's not a old jalopy, and there's no hookup. It's just on off season storing it there on that property, you know, through the winter mostly. From, let's see, end of April through October, it's always parked at the reservoir full time. So there's no hookup. No one's going to be living in it, anything like that. That's kind of how I took it. They interpreted that, and that's, you know, not what's going to happen. It's just storing over the winter. The neighbor right to the south of there has got a trailer that sits there all year round, never seen it move, and it's not fenced in. And the chain link fence part is literally, I'm at home right now because I got heat exhaustion from 2 days ago trying to install the new gate, which is going to be metal, just like the rest of the fencing. You know, I spent $15,000 to fix that fence and put new fence up 2.5 years ago to make it a better appearance. And the only reason I put the wrought iron up was so somebody could, so if anyone could broke in, they can see, which I was broke into last year. I had $40,000 removed from the property. And that's, you know, why that wrought iron is there, but there's not a problem to close it completely in. It's, like I said, again, $20-some thousand fence. It's not a $500 repair. The graffiti situation is got the paint to fix it, but if I can't use the property, then I don't know why. If my building looks better than 50% of the properties that are on that block, it's got garbage and yard sales going on there on a regular basis, looks like, but they don't sell nothing because there's a bunch of junk. Man, I can only spend so much. I'm not rich. And a couple of things I didn't understand what else was asked. In English, if somebody could explain to me, maybe I could answer that.
Anything else, sir?
Well, I guess not, if I don't understand some of the questions.
Any questions for the applicant? Mr. Foster.
Sir, do you own the equipment and the trailers and things that are being, I know you mentioned about your fifth wheel, but I'm talking about the other items in storage there. Is that all your own personal ownership, or do you rent that storage for other individuals?
No, there's 2 flatbed trailers there. One's a car trailer that I use for some of my old cars, and there's an enclosed trailer that is an enclosed trailer for my cars where I'm transporting, you know, long distance. And there's a dump trailer for my business. I own Cameron Roofing Construction, which its office location is at 3005 South Broadway, right beside Shamrock Tire. And I purchased this several years ago for like overflow for the trailers and stuff. Now, a year and a half, 2 years ago, I was trying to help a friend of a friend out, and I think that's where a lot of this problem's coming in. He's supposed to be there 3 to 4 months, trying to never charge him $1, but he's getting a place. He's a mechanic, so he's working outside. Ended up being a year and a half, so I had to basically threaten and do everything I could to get him off the property once I allowed him to, you know, trying to be nice. And that was the part I think that the issue started from, is just a bunch of junk around there. But the thing's cleaned up. I've been keeping it up, and you know, no rental's gonna be going on there. It's for I learned my lesson on trying to help somebody out or be nice. I need it for my business use, really, for overflow, because I got a fairly small lot and building over at my main office area, which is like 5 blocks away. If you guys see that, it's just 31st and Broadway, and about, you know where Shamrock is from, I think, the location we're talking about.
Mr. Foster, any additional questions for the applicant?
No, thank you.
Sir, Chuck Warren, my question, there's, on the report that we've got, staff listed out on 14 items that they recommend be required should we agree to approve this zone change. Have you read those, and are you willing to comply with all of those items?
The 14 items as in,
Has the land use, landscaping, screening, outdoor lighting, signage, portable signs, all of that?
the screening.
Oh, there's
would-
15 items,
would you
yeah.
mean on- What do you mean on the screening?
Say that again.
The screening? I don't understand.
Their basic screening says screening constructed of standard building materials or an approved landscape buffer shall be provided along the south and west property line. Screening must be kept free of graffiti and maintained in a presentable manner. Are you willing to comply with that? If this is approved?
When you mean screening, maybe I'm not understanding what you mean screening.
Screening?
I mean, I've already got the paint to paint all the, I've got paint to repaint all the fencing from the graffiti that's probably been about a month now. I've purchased cameras, and when I get the new gate put up, I'm putting cameras up because I can catch them little shits that's been doing it for the last year.
Okay, thank you.
So I just haven't fixed the graffiti because once I paint it, they're going to come back. But I haven't had time. Like I said, I literally had a heat stroke Tuesday trying to get the front gate fixed for this meeting, so it will look a little bit. That'll eliminate the chain link.
Okay. Additional
And
questions for the
I do have
applicant?
the cameras purchased. Once that's done, then I'm going to set the cameras up and paint the fence. But I don't want to paint the fence until I put the cameras up.
I understand. Thank you. Additional questions for the
Because,
applicant?
you know, I'm rich. I just want to, you know, I don't want them to have to paint it every time I turn around. Because if I don't put cameras up, they're going to do it again. They're not going to get caught.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Is there anybody else that wishes to speak on this issue? You state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes. I'm not hearing anything, so I'll bring it back to the commission for action.
I've got a question for staff.
Mr.
On
Hartman.
the fence across the front, he's saying there's wrought iron in it. Are you saying that has to, he needs something completely solid across there?
It would have to be solid screen, yes. It would have to be solid screening.
I can put the metal. I've purchased. I still have enough metal to close that in. The only reason I did the wrought iron is because really I think it looks nice from the street appeal. But I did it so if somebody broke in, they couldn't just pull their vehicles in there and go to town. But if that's what I got to do, that's what I got to do, I guess.
Mr. Chairman, this is Dave Yarrow with planning staff. Screening requirements of the Unified Zoning Code do not permit metal use. So the west and south side with metal fences can be used as screening, but metal cannot.
Okay.
That's by the zoning. That's by the code.
We're talking about the wrought iron.
Well, and wrought iron is not screening.
So you're saying the metal fence?
The metal
installed
fence,
is not.
Fencing can be used as screening, but metal fence cannot.
So I got to remove all the fencing.
Yeah, we can get you the information on what kind of screening would be permissible.
Well, it was the whole back of the property was metal screened when I purchased it.
It's a different zone.
The whole east side of it was that's the original fence. I didn't redo. All I did is reinforce that.
The existing
It was
conditions
there
of
for
it,
15 years.
the existing conditions of it don't qualify for its staying. With this zone change, you have to come into compliance with all portions of the code.
Thank you, sir. Let us deliberate here. We'll get back. Hang on just a second.
One just more thing. So it was okay for it to be there for 20.
Okay. Is there any other questions for staff? Any questions for the applicant? Bring it back to the commission for action.
I just want to make a few comments. I have a lot of concern about this particular case for several reasons. One is that this was not brought forward for a change in zoning until this person was found in violation of the actions that he was taking with this property currently, or is taking with this property currently. My other concern is that this property does sit farther back into the neighborhood and right next door to a house that I'm not sure if I lived in that house whether I would want this type of storage on the house, on the property right next to me. I'm going to also refer to another similar incident that happened and exists on 55th Street between Broadway and Hydraulic, where somebody was allowed to use an area for storage. They put up chain link fence, they put up some wood fencing on top of that, and it's become nothing but a junkyard where a lot of equipment sits. It's right in the middle of a residential neighborhood. It's not appealing to have that in a residential neighborhood. So for that, I will not be able to support allowing this zoning.
Additional comments? Mr. Foster?
Staff may need to correct me here, but I'm sensing that the applicant has not willfully come into this. It's just kind of a series of events and things has created the condition that is unfortunate for all those involved, so.
Additional comment? Somebody want to make a motion?
I will make a motion to deny.
We have a motion to deny by Ms. Miles. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Dool. Additional questions, comments? Mr. Green?
I guess I'm concerned if we do nothing, then nothing will change down there. And it's not in the best of shape right now, and it will get nothing but worse, I would think. It's a dilemma.
You want to make a substitute motion, or you want to let it ride?
Mr. Dool.
Mr. Dool?
I understand, but he's in violation right now, and I don't think it's this commission's responsibility to enforce code violations.
Anything else? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously, 11-0. Okay. I'm looking at 4.9? Oh, 4.8? Was that the one that we were?
Yeah, the zone 2013 in the
Right.
county.
Do we have everybody available to us? We have
Kurt, make it back.
we have the applicant or the agent at Century 2 or online?
The agent is here at Century 2.
Okay. And the people that wanted this to be heard, are they available either at Century 2 or online? I'm not sure who that was.
Yes, I'm online.
Okay?
I'm on a different device.
Okay, hang on, and we will get back with you. We'll go through the process here. We'll now hear that item. Kathy?
Thank you, Kathy Morgan, for planning staff. Jim, will you go to the zoning map? Yes, this is an application for a change in residential use from rural residential to SF20 to allow the reduction of the lot size to be less than 2 acres. In rural residential, it has to be more than that, and the applicant wants to develop an almost 9-acre tract into 7 lots. And there should be an attachment to your packet that shows the proposed plat. And this is a multi-jurisdictional case. It is in the county, but it's within Derby's area of influence. So their planning commission will take care of the platting process. And then when it goes to the Board of County Commissioners, they will consider what the Planning Commission has recommended, and then what the Derby Planning Commission recommends. And you do have the minutes from that May 21st meeting. This property next, Jim. This property is located south of Fairview Meadows, which is developed into a range of lots from less than 2 acres to, there you go. You can see above the red outline, that's Fairview Meadows, or Fairway Meadows addition in the county. And Eagle Drive opens onto, Jim, can you go to the right side of the red box? There's an existing, right there, there's an existing house and some outbuildings, and they want to keep that house. This is a family member, a Schmeidler family member that lives there, and then they want to develop an additional 6 lots. This is going to be an alternative septic system. Let's see, what else? The discussion at the Derby Planning Commission was that this was similar in use, as does planning department staff agrees with that. That was mentioned in our report, that this is, according to our 2035 future growth concept map, this is an appropriate use or allowance to change the zoning to SF5. It will make it more developable and will be similar in configuration to that Fairway Meadows on the north. And I believe that the Derby Planning Commission has approved the plat for this. So staff is recommending approval of the zone change from RR to SF20 rural residential rather. And I will stand for any questions.
Questions for Kathy? Kathy, I've got one. Eagle Drive is the one that would be the access point going into this land?
That is correct.
The lots that are on Eagle Drive, approximately how large are those? Are those half-acre lots, 1 acre
The
lots?
existing ones?
Yeah, the existing ones on Eagle Drive.
Yes, there's that one on the left, what would be the northwest corner there at the corner at Eagle Drive where it abuts the acreage is a little over an acre. So there's a range there between the half acre to 3/4 of an acre, yes.
And so they're looking at 7 lots in 9 acres, so the size of these lots will be similar to the lot sizes.
Yes, they will be under 2 acres, and that's what they had to, in order to do that, they had to request this zone change.
Additional questions for Kathy? I'm seeing none, so we will go to the agent or applicant. State your name and address for the record, and you have 10 minutes.
Kirk Miller, K.E. Miller Engineering, 117 East Louis. I'm the agent for the applicant. And this case was heard by the Derby Planning and Zoning Commission, and they approved, they heard the zoning case, they approved the zoning, and they have approved the preliminary plat. The lots on this subdivision will be greater than an acre because we have to have at least an acre to do alternative sewer. So that's why we only have 7 lots on there, is because the only sewer we have available is alternative sewer. The neighbors have some concerns about the roads. This is public roads leading up to it. They were paved probably about 25 years ago. The owner of this property lived in the Fairway Meadows addition and helped circulate the paving petitions at the time when they did this. And he's wants to plat this into 7 lots. He's going to initially build a couple of houses for his children, and he's planning on paving the road and using rural water he's already talked to the Rural Water District, and they have available services for him. He's gonna pave the road, he's gonna use alternative sewer, he'll have a temporary cul-de-sac at the end, just like the current subdivision is now. When they platted that original subdivision, they put they platted a temporary cul-de-sac and built the temporary cul-de-sac at the end of Eagle Drive. And with the intent of it being extended in the future to serve this property, because that would be the only point of access to this property. Would be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions for Kurt?
I have a question.
Mr. Hartman?
So Kurt, the development to the north, are those streets private?
They're public.
They're public.
They're maintained
And
by the town.
who maintains them now?
The township.
The township, okay. So, and he's planning on constructing them just same as they are just to the north of him?
Yes, he will do an asphalt mat surface on it and run it through the county.
Okay.
It will not be petitioned, though. He's planning on paying for it out of his own pocket.
Any additional questions for Kurt? Seeing none, we'll go to public comment. Mrs. Fine, you're online. I think you're the one that's been waiting the most, so I'll let you go first. You have 3 minutes. State your name and address for the record, please.
Okay, this is Janet Fine. I live at 6730 Eagle Drive, which is within the notification area for proposed zoning and plating. I'm here to raise some concerns and ask for conditions to be imposed on the rezoning and plating. Specifically, I would like conditions of lot size stable, the allowed uses and the required setbacks and the use of roads. We would like to propose to have the minimum lot area size be at least 1 acre, put in stone, kind of say. We would prefer the 2 acre minimum, but that's all in delegation to whatever sewer product is going to be applicable for this particular addition once they do the soil testing and the percolation and whatever. I've read up on whether there's a pressurized system available, a community lagoon available, whatever is necessary to allow that to happen. If this area at any point in time is annexed in the city of Derby, their requirement is 38 square feet minimum. Please note that a minimum of 1 acre would not harm the applicant because apparently, that is what he's got platted right now for his addition. The applicant would not be harmed with this request, and it would assure that the communities on both sides would be complement each other. I did talk to the Gibson County Township and discuss some road issues with it. I'll get back with that. Second phase would restrict the allowed use property to only be single family home. This restriction would conform to the nearby neighborhood and has a restricted covenant only allowing for single family dwellings. This would also prevent detrimental effect to the property values of the neighboring property. That would just kind of restrict any manufactured homes, group homes, anything that is under that SF20. So if we could be assured it was only a single family, that would be great. Third, please impose a 50-foot setback for the properties. This would conform to the neighborhood and prevent detrimental effects to the property owners. Fourth, please require applicant and developers to access the development during construction from one access route. We have 3 streets that enter this addition. We thought it would be more beneficial if they would just use one of those streets. Please require the applicant developer to improve any streets that would have any construction deficits after the construction's done. When this addition was built in 1977 by Giese and Hampton, these were dirt roads out here. We petitioned, I personally went around to every household in 1993 and worked with Sedgwick County with Mr. Weber to get a plat done for our asphalt roads. And at that time, it was over a $600,000 project. We're just very concerned in regards to, especially when you're laying asphalt on your side and having a lot of big machinery coming in to move land around to create this addition. We're just concerned that our that particular, the streets don't get harmed.
Ms. Fine, your time has expired. How much more time do you need?
Basically, I do have questions about the sanitation system and would kind of like any results of that being shipped to us, if that's possible. But outside of that, I just would request the 1 acre minimum, the single family, and the setbacks at 50, and prevent damage to the road.
Any questions?
And would like to know about the alternate sanitation system.
Any questions?
Thank you very much.
Any questions for the speaker? Mr. Hartman.
Why are you requesting a 50-foot setback on these lots?
I had a real estate attorney overview this. He said it would be in compliant. It's basically, we have 85 on our end. And apparently in this, you would be it from the side road rather than the middle of the road. He is on now if you have a question for that, if you want to ask him.
That doesn't appear to be the case, so thank you. Any additional questions for the speaker?
I'm sorry, did you want me to? My name is Dylan Fell. I'm the attorney she referenced. You want me to address that question, or was Janet's answer sufficient?
I think her
for you?
answer was sufficient.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Foster.
I would like to confirm that the measurement we're talking about is from the property line and not the center of a roadway or something in the R1B district for Derby.
Okay. I'm going to have several questions that has to do with how much of this falls under our purview and how much of this is the Planning Commission for the City of Derby. I think where a lot of the questions that came up are good and valid questions that need to be answered, but I'm not sure that they fall under our bailiwick. Any additional questions for the speaker? Thank you. Is there anybody else out there that would like to speak on this issue?
Yes.
Okay, state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Yes, sir. My name is Stephen Bro. I live at 6744 South Eagle Drive, adjacent to the Fines. My biggest concern is where the temporary cul-de-sac will be intersecting this new roadway and property. There's a pretty heavy wood line right there, which would prevent drivers from being able to see as they're coming down the road. And as is, there's a fair amount of traffic coming out of that property, and there are a lot of kids on the road. I'd just like to know if there's going to be something done to address that wood line to provide a better line of sight and possibly speed limit signs posted, because if we're going to have more traffic on what has been a cul-de-sac for many years prior to us moving in, I would like some sort of assurance, I guess, that safety will be considered to prevent this up-and-coming traffic and this possible future development down there, that we won't end up with basically unsafe conditions due to traffic that has not been there for numerous years.
Okay, I'll make sure that the applicant addresses that, and if not, we've got some staff people that can address that. Anything else, sir?
Thank you.
Any
No,
questions?
sir, thank you very much.
Any questions for the speaker? Seeing none, thank you, sir. Is there anybody else out there that would like to speak on this issue? State your name and address for the record, and you will have 3 minutes.
No, sir. Are you talking to me, Mrs. Fine?
No, I'm talking to somebody else that hasn't spoken. Is there anybody else that would like to speak on this issue? Hearing none, I will bring it back to the agent or applicant, and you, Kurt, you will have 2 minutes for rebuttal.
Okay, this is a zoning case, and we're trying to get the zoning approved. A lot of those issues would be part of the platting. We still have to go to a final plat with the city of Derby on, and it'll go to the county commission. The street will be built per Sedgwick County standards, and their engineering department will review it, so they will make sure that we have proper site distances and use proper pavement thicknesses and proper drainage and that type of thing. Right now, we're just asking for approval. This is just to change the zoning to the SF20, which because we don't have like an SF 40, which they were requesting in the Derby Planning Commission meeting, have basically an acre lot, but we're stuck with an acre anyway because of the alternative sewer. That acre is bigger than every other lot except for one on Eagle Drive up there, so.
Okay,
I think we're definitely appropriate for the subdivision.
Okay, any additional questions for the agent? Seeing none, thank you, Kirk.
Thank you.
Okay, bring it back to the commission. I guess I'll start off. There are a number of things that the callers that, had concerns about in terms of setback lines and those types of things. How much of that is a part of the zoning process, and how much of that is a part of the plating process that will fall to the Derby Planning Commission?
The zoning regulations establish a standard setback measured for the property line, not from the middle of the road, but you can measure the middle of the road. But most of the items that were raised deal with subdivision or plating issues, and those are the jurisdiction of the city of Derby.
Okay.
And the issue about lot size, that's controlled by the Sedgwick County Sanitation Code, which requires for less than 2 acres, well, actually almost less than 5 acres. If you're going to an on-site system today, you're dealing with an on-site, the enhanced on-site wastewater systems, which require a 1 acre minimum anyway.
Okay, thank you. Questions for staff? Any suggestions that basically just those that called and had a number of questions that they need to be, what is the process, where is the plat process? Have they lost their opportunity to speak to this,
No, well, Derby has reviewed the plat, and I think Kirk said they've approved the preliminary plat. I don't know whether they've acted on the final plat yet, but the platting process will go through the city of Derby, and they need to work with the city of Derby on where that is.
Kirk?
Maybe Kirk can tell us where that is.
That's what I was going to ask. Kirk, can you tell us where this is at in the process of Derby Planning Commission?
Yes, it has gone through the preliminary plating stage and they approved it, and we have not gone to final yet.
Okay, so if these folks had concerns about setbacks, those types of things, who would they contact?
The Derby Planning Department.
Okay, so those of you that call in, contact the Derby Planning Department, find out where they're at in the process. You will have an opportunity to address the concerns that you've had. Bring it back to the commission for action.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the zone request.
I'll second that.
Second. Okay, I missed the second.
Mr. Florence.
Mr. Florence.
Mr. Florence, good. Get one of you guys staying at home and in on the action. We have a motion by Mr. Green and a second by Mr. Florence. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next item is 4.10, city zone change from single family to, is that the right one?
4.9.
No, 4.9. Yeah, number 10 was by consent. Yeah, city conditional, that didn't sound right. City conditional use to allow safety services, including a future fire station. Kathy?
Yes. Jim, would you please go to, there's your zoning map, and the area outlined in the heavy black line is the area requested for the conditional use for the expansion of the safety services facility. SF5 allows this type of use by an approval of a conditional use. So, you know, we've done these types of cases before in the city. This happens to be part of Cypress Park. I have received, at last count, I received 27 emails against allowing the conditional use, and 25 in favor of the conditional use. The District Advisory Board met Monday night. They voted 10-0 to deny. So because of that vote, this is going to go to City Council anyway. So I know that this area, the existing station, the fire trucks come out onto Edgemore. There is a driveway access off Lexington Road. And then the green portion up adjacent to the, yes, thank you, Jim. The green portion is where the Girl Scouts of America, their regional office is located in that building. Staff is recommending approval of the conditional use for the safety services facility because Patrol East is just jam-packed in that building that they have right now. So it does comply with our community investment plans. It's allowed in single-family residential with a conditional use, and staff is recommending approval of the safety services facility. And I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions for Kathy?
Is there, Kathy, sorry.
Go ahead, Ms. Dexter.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to ask, is there anybody from the city who would be able to speak to the need of that facility and how they came to the arrival of this
I think there's
location?
some people in Century 2, city staff in Century 2. I would also, Jim, can you show the aerial that MKEC supplied? The next one, keep going. Okay, this is, back up. This is the proposed building site. And what you see there in gray is where the Girl Scout facility is located. And I believe in your packet, you have a map that was provided that shows the 200 feet area that surrounds the area that they're requesting the conditional use on. So.
I'm going to abstain on this, I'm going to leave.
Okay.
We did some original.
You're excused?
Study.
Is it, we're still enough for a quorum, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Mr. Dool?
So what was the nature of the concerns of the District Advisory Board?
They didn't want the parkland to be reduced that significantly. The comments were that park is very much utilized, and they felt that there should be a better location for the station, for the safety services facility. So it had to do with taking up the existing parkland.
Additional questions for staff? Mr. Green?
It appears as though of the remaining park property before the addition of the east substation, it appears that it's only taking up, what, maybe less than half of what was existing park.
It would be close. I don't have maybe Brian can answer that. I don't have that information.
Additional questions for staff? Agent or applicant? Who's going to represent? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Nix.
I just have an observation. It seems odd to me that the Board of Park Commissioners would be the applicant wanting to give up park space. It just seems a bit odd to me, but maybe not.
There could be people in Century 2 that, I know there was somebody that came in earlier that left to go to Century 2 to speak. So I don't know how many people are over there that could answer that question.
Mr. Foster?
I have two questions, and I don't know that they need to be answered just yet. We can hear the discussion, but One is, it doesn't, we don't have a good understanding in the staff report on how this was vetted or chosen. And so I would like to hear more about that. And the second is the armory is briefly mentioned in the report. And if I recall right, it suggested a deficit of about 215 square feet of that armory facility being capable of handling this. So I would like to have those addressed during the discussion.
Okay, hang on to those questions. Hopefully the applicant will address that when they speak, but we'll see. If not, we can bring it up again. Hang on to that. Additional questions for staff before we go to the agent or applicant? Okay?
Yeah, can I ask a question?
Yes, Mr. Fox. Yes.
What about what's going to happen with the existing facilities? How come that wasn't incorporated into, what they wanted to do?
We'll be sure and ask that. I've got an idea, but we'll ask the applicant when they come online.
It's my understanding that it will continue to be used, that they are just adding more square footage.
They'll address that.
Yeah.
They will address that, Mr. Florence. We'll make sure that gets answered.
Okay.
Okay, seeing no more questions for staff, we will go to the agent or applicant. Are they at Century 2?
They are online.
They are online. Okay, state your name and state your name and address for the record. You have 10 minutes.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. This is Brian Lindeback, MKEC Engineering, on behalf of the owners. Our office is at 411 North Webb Road. I have a couple things to tell you a little about the history on this. I know there was some question about how this property was vetted. The East Patrol Station was occupied at this location adjacent to it in 1989, and they've been there. At the time that facility was a max capacity of 40 patrol folks, and now they've got well over 100. So there's a little bit of a history there. This property, as you know, is adjacent to the existing patrol station as well as a fire station. The property, the police station takes care of about 25% of the geographical area of Wichita. So this is not an insignificant request here. This is a crucial part of our policing and safety of all of Wichita. It's situated in the middle of all of their beats. I think that's critical to understand from a geographical standpoint. This is a very critical location for them, which hence is why they picked this location, some 30 plus years ago. With regard to how much vetting has gone on, this property has been in discussion about a police station for over 7 years. There's been a lot of discussions with various boards, various officials. As you know, the property is currently owned by the park board. They have officially blessed the approval of this numerous months ago, but most recently they heard it at their February 10th meeting, and then they agreed to this site plan that's basically represented before you here. I think it's just very important to understand, how much our city has grown in some 30 years, and then again, just how important and crucial this is to the community. They did look at numerous different sites, other sites than what you have before you. Those sites were determined to be stricken from the list for various reasons. I think there was mentioned that the National Guard building was looked at one point in time, and it is not sufficient for their long-term needs. I think when you build a police station, fire station, you got to look long-term. This site is going to meet the needs for a long term. So I think that's a critical thing to understand. They did partner with the park board throughout this conversation and this process. There are things that are being improved for the park as well. As you can see on the site plan, there's a playground that will be relocated and improved upon. I think their plan is to move at least 40 to 50% of the existing relatively new equipment, and then they'll expand upon that. As you'll also note, there is an access point that heads out to Edgemore, and that access point will have parking, and you'll see that parking on there. There's some 26 parking spaces. Those parking spaces will be for the general public at large to utilize the park. I think this is a unique park in that it does not currently have parking spaces for people to come and enjoy the park. You have to walk to it or cycle to it. So this will definitely enhance that option for people to utilize it. I think another thing that's been discussed among the many years and long time that's come in is just how many beautiful trees there are in the park, and this site has been situated to preserve as many of the specimen trees that there are out there. There will be some tree removal. Those are going to be some cedar trees and other trees, but as you can see from the positioning of the police station, there's a large grove of trees. If you had an aerial up, Jim, if you could possibly bring an aerial up. In front of the station, there's some existing trees, a grove of trees. Those are lace bark elms. They're beautiful trees, and so they're being preserved amongst other trees. So there's going to be a landscape buffer along the easterly portion of the property. It'll be enhanced upon. It'll be left with just open space and trees. And if you're reading the site plan and have that in front of you, you'll notice that the police facility itself will be fenced off. That will be for security purposes. I think you'll also notice that there's ample parking at the rear of the building, and note that the building is far offset from the property. It's over 180 feet from the rear property lines of those single-family residences, which I think you'll find is more than what the Girl Scout building is. So we're doing a better job of respecting the neighborhood there with that regard. I think you'll also notice, if you've been to the site in the recent past, that there's parking activity that is along Lexington Street, or Lexington Road. This parking will allow to alleviate the police officers to park their vehicles on site and in a secured manner. I think that's one other really good selling point to this whole project. Like I said, this has been a very well vetted process. It's a long-term process. You don't just go build a 25,000 square foot building just every day, and this is something that's just going to be a super asset to our community. And lastly, I think it's important to note that the police are moving out of a space that's 3,600 square feet. I think there are many houses that are going to be bigger than that. They're moving into a 25,000 square foot building. The fire station that will remain there will actually inherit that 3,600 square feet, and I'm sure they're eager to utilize that space as well. I think this answers most of the questions that were presented, and I'll stand for any additional questions unless there's anything else I can add.
Any questions for the applicant, the agent? Yeah, Mr. Green?
Brian, our packet only shows us the site plan basically for the station and where the proposed relocation of the playground is. Do we have or does the park board have a site plan of what the remainder of the park is going to look like, and what addition, is it going to be walking paths? I know that's been the concern of a lot of the emails that we received earlier in the week, that park was just going to be decimated and there would be nothing left. And could you address that just a little bit more? I know you've done some, but
sure. Sure. The park is over 11 acres. this site, which includes an access drive and some screening space behind the facility, is 4.14 acres. So as you can see, it's not decimating the entire park. We're utilizing a good portion of it, but we're also improving the park by bringing the playground from the center of the park, which is relatively inaccessible to a lot of people. We're bringing that playground down to closer to where the public can get to it. So I think there's a lot of good things happening here. It's tough to see a park go in part, but we do still have a good park here. There will be trails that are out there today. We'll maintain the trails, and who knows? The Parks Board is very limited on their funds. There could be some additional trails built, but some of those discussions are yet to be seen with regard to future improvements.
Thank you. Additional questions for the agent, Mr. Foster.
How about online? I have a question.
Sir, just hold on, we'll give you an opportunity. Mr. Foster has the floor.
My question is, discuss the design strategy of not locating the station towards Edgemore and bringing the park amenities more to the east, because these properties on the east side there are going to lose value. So discuss the design strategy of why not to place it along and front it onto Edgemore, which has been some current design processes want to see that.
Yeah, David, that's Mr. Foster. That is an area that is prone to flooding as you get closer to Edgemore, and so therefore it wouldn't be compatible with putting a building there.
Okay. Mr. Hartman.
Yes, you're showing proposed landscape screening along that northeast property line. What will that consist of?
It'll be likely evergreen screening. There are some cedar trees there presently, but unfortunately a lot of those cedar trees have been limbed up. So we'll probably be adding in more cedar trees and more evergreens with a very dense planting plan to create that buffer.
Do you know if those houses that back up there, do they have any kind of a screening fence behind them?
Yes, they do. There's actually one of the properties has some pampas type grass that's probably some of the tallest pampas grass I've ever seen. I think it's like 18 feet tall, 15 to 18 feet tall. But there are screening fences along there. Not all of them have an opaque screen. Obviously, if you live next to that open space, you might want to see some of it. But in large part, there's a very heavy screening buffer there already.
Is there any way for those residences to get to the park? Is there access to the park on that side of the property?
Not that I'm aware of. I've not witnessed that.
Okay, additional questions for the agent? Thank you, Brian. We'll start with public comment with the folks that are at Century 2. I understand there's probably some folks at home too that are looking to come in by device, but we will start with those that are at Century 2. If there's anybody there at Century 2 that would like to speak on this issue, come to the podium and state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
We've got 2 people here at Century 2.
Okay.
My name's Betty Jo Evans, and I live at 255 South Brookside. My backyard is next to the park, and I'm going to have to differ with what they're saying and that there's screening all along there, because our backyard has no screening. When we moved in, we bought that house because we loved that park, and that was part of the reason why we bought that house. And we also do like the fact that there is a police station there, and that influenced us in buying that park. But to have such a huge footprint on this new building to take away the majority of the park is not okay. I'm very upset about that. We do have access to that park, The week we moved in, we had somebody come in and put a gate in our back fence so we could access that park. And we are out there every week. The instructions for filing an application for conditional use says the development also should be appropriate to the neighborhood, and it needs to ensure that the development will minimize any diminution of value of the surrounding property. Well, given that the number of residents in that red zone in your packet will have property values that are impacted by a 26,000 square foot building, I don't see how you're minimizing the effect of that building there to our properties. I have talked to numerous realtors, and all of them have said that that is an undesirable area to have in one's backyard, and it will definitely reduce the value, the market value of our property. I would like to say that I believe that there are other areas on the east side of town that can accommodate such a large building without taking such a large footprint away from our park. Because what they're taking away now, the parking lot goes almost all the way up to our back fence. That's not just talking about the building itself, but the parking lot goes all the way. I don't want to look out my backyard and see a parking lot. And the light poles that are going to be right next to our backyard, that it's going to shine light into the backyard of our house and have to have our windows affected by that all the time. So I believe there are other areas that could accommodate this building.
Excuse me, ma'am,
There are.
your time has expired. Would you like one more minute?
Yes.
You have 1 minute.
I was driving around yesterday evening, and only a mile and a half away is a clap golf course that has recently been closed. And I would think that that area needs to be reconsidered for this building. It's still on the east side. It's still in the area that you need to have for your police station. And taking area out of that golf course or ex-golf course would still leave plenty of green space for those neighborhoods, whereas the green space that we've got in our neighborhood is basically going to be decimated by this building. And I appreciate your time.
If you would stay at the podium, please. Let me see if there's any questions for you. Are there any questions for the speaker?
Does she have access to this site plan to show us where she lives?
Matt, do they have can she use the mouse to show where she lives in relationship to the?
No, she can't use the mouse, but.
We're in the center of that one right there.
So she's, yep, that building right there.
That building right there. Okay, thank you. Any additional questions for the speaker? Seeing none, thank you, ma'am. Appreciate that. Is there anybody else there at Century 2 that would like to speak on this issue? State your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Mark Evans, 255 South Brookside. Obviously, it's my wife you just heard of. Pretty shocked when we saw the site plan that came out for the zoning notice. We were shown a plan a year or so ago that showed us about a third of that footprint. I'm going to enable what MAPC said a little bit. The building may be 180 feet from the fence. The parking from my fence, the parking lot is 26 feet. And I do not want to put up a light pollution, all those things. But what really bothers me is that in the city of all of East Wichita, this is the only place we could find to build a police station that is desperately needed. But you're not going to have a park left. The way the creek runs through that park, unless they're going to build a couple of bridges, You can't access that playground from the north. You're gonna have to walk around. And a lot of people do walk into that park. They come from Crown Heights, they come from East Village, they come from Eastboro, and they all walk into that park. Yeah, some parking might be nice, but I don't think it's gonna see the usage that it does today. The running trails, you're gonna have to go around to the north end to get on them according to the current plan. I think the usage is really gonna drop off. But what really bothers me is that we're gonna sacrifice a great park. I mean, yeah, I put up with the noise of 300 or 400 Girl Scouts and fall afternoons and activities and all that. It's a joyous noise. And we can't find other commercial properties, and there's vacant properties around. I'd really like to ask MEKC, what did Simon Properties say when you approached them about the northwest corner of the Town East Mall, where the theaters were? That's vacant. It's probably never going to be commercially developed again. I bet they'd love to get rid of it. So I'm looking at this esteemed board and saying, hey, as Keith Jackson used to say, woe Nelly to the city of Wichita, deny this claim, let's go back to the planning boards, and let's have a beautiful neighborhood park preserved. Thank you.
Sir, if you can stay right there, let me check and see if there's any questions for you. Any questions for the speaker? Seeing none, thank you, sir. Matt, is there anybody else there at Century 2 that would like to speak?
That's it here at Century 2.
Okay, let's see if there's anybody else out there by a mobile device or at home or by phone.
This is Steve Shell.
Okay, Steve, Kristen Scare, did I pronounce that correctly? You state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
My name is Steve Shell.
Okay.
My address is
Hold on here, we got 2 people trying to talk at one time. Christine, we'll let you go first.
Hi, I'm Dr. Kristen Scare. I own Scare Veterinary Clinic at 404 South Edgemore, directly across from the police station. I also own Lot 2 of Village Square Edition, which is 16,651 square feet. It is an undeveloped lot right next to my building. I love having a police station there. I also love having a park there. I use the park almost every day over my lunch hour. It's a beautiful park. I think there's a compromise here. I think we could keep a police station and we could have a lovely park. I do think a little bit of the park probably would need to go. But I have offered, and I've not been heard back from, but I have offered somehow to have an arrangement to use my 16,000 square foot lot directly across from the police station for parking, which would be a reasonable compromise to eliminate tearing up some of the park and having a parking lot right in the back of someone's house. It is an undeveloped lot. If the city would pave it and put a parking lot in it and let me use 10 lots, they can use it. That's how important this lot is to me, this park is to me. But having a police station directly across from a veterinary clinic with controlled substances in it is an incredibly important thing as well. And I think there's compromise. I have offered this before and haven't heard from anyone, so I wanted to make my offer known.
Thank you. Any questions for the speaker? Seeing none, thank you, ma'am. David, excuse me, stay right there. David Foster.
Ms. Scare, could you somehow describe to us a little bit closer where this lot is that you're talking about?
Yes, if you look, it's lot 2 in Village Square Edition. It is directly, you're not going to be able to see it in any of these pictures. It's on Lexington, directly across from the police station. So it's south of the police station on Lexington, directly, it's going to be east of Scare Veterinary Clinic.
Yes, it's on the south side of the street.
There you go. There you go. That lot, that brown lot right there. It's 16,651 square feet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question. I have a question for Kristen.
Hold on just a moment here. We have a gentleman that was next in line to speak, and I'm not sure if he's still there or not, sir. Was it Mr. Shell? Mr. Shell, are you still there? State your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
My name is Steve Shell. My address is 206 South Brookside Street. And of course, I'm a private citizen, and this is my first time ever speaking to any board, so you might hear some emotion in my voice. I gasp in horror when I saw the extent of that building, I'm shaking in shock. I can dispute almost every statement that Brian did because I already went through these statements with Alan King and Councilman Brandon Johnson. So almost everything I can dispute from Brian as just being a deception away from what's really going on. This is sort of immaterial and irrelevant. My home is 100 feet from Cypress Park. And this morning I walked from one end to the other and back home. The majority of the park is the east side of that incrossable stream. It's 8 feet deep and 10 feet across. So that other side is just a piece of pie that happens to be there. The heart is exactly where the red line is. As a homeowner, we normally just go about our lives and hope that the members on this board care enough to look out for our interests. This is a very unusual situation for me, and this is a big deal for me and my family. In this case, my family will be directly negatively affected if this application request is approved. And this is forever. Cypress Park was born in 1950. It's now age 70 and effectively gets the heart of the park removed. The Wichita City Plan of 2016, quote, the Wichita Park System has come a long way since it was established in the 1920s by L.W. Clapp. Clapp's vision incorporated a vital urban community with adequate public parks and open spaces to provide every Wichita citizen with the opportunity to enjoy nature without traveling far from home, end quote. The Wichita Department of Park and Recs is supposed to be the steward for this land. Are they here protecting the Cypress Park? It sounded, I thought they might have been here so I could have thanked them, but it sounds like they're not here protecting the park. This isn't available vacant land, which is what I got back from Alan King, that this is just vacant land, there's nothing there. But it has an existing essential purpose. It has one for 70 years. It's a park with a live stream and wildlife that live there. And wild streams, that means EPA oversight. Some of that wildlife walks through my backyard at midnight and eventually goes home in the early morning. I'm not here to argue about the merits of the project. The city council already decided that 2 days ago. They want to replace the substation. Got it, moving on. That's immaterial and irrelevant. As for any standard CU meeting, you already know that you are not being asked to approve or deny if the applicant's project is valid. Your duty today is simply to decide if the requested location meets the accepted standards for approval of a CU permit on zone SF5 single-family residential land.
Sir, your time has expired. Would you like an additional 1 minute?
I would.
You have it.
A fair reading of the 4 well-known policy standards indicates that the applicant request fails all of the conditional use standard plain language. General where fail? It fails. Destroying the heart of the park for an office building damages this public park. A nuisance causing excess traffic noise, it's failing. To go from the small substation to a gigantic 22,000 square foot office complex with a steel security perimeter fence. The general plan consistency, is it subject to the general plan of the community? This wasn't the plan for 70 years, that eventually the park would be replaced with a giant office complex. And the city general plan was to enhance the parks. Clearly destroying parks fails the city general plan and the current plan of my neighborhood. Zone consistency, is this well suited for zoning laws? That fails. Building an office complex in a 70-year-old neighborhood requiring the loss of Cypress Park. And we're all going to file a protest forms, and we're going to go for the triggering of the supermajority.
Your time has expired. Let me see if there's any questions for you, please. Any questions for the speaker? Seeing none, thank you, sir. Appreciate your comments. Is there anybody else out there that would like to speak on this issue?
Hello.
State your name.
Hello, I like this.
Pam Head, I see. State your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Yes, thank you. My name is Pam Head. my address is 300 South Linwood, here in the village. I am also the head of our neighborhood association, the Village Neighborhood Association. And for over a year now, we have had many meetings, many public village meetings and had opportunity to visit with the captain of the East Substation as well as the community policing officer. And overwhelmingly, the thought is that our neighborhood supports the presence of the East Substation here in the village. We really feel that the safety of the residents, not only in the village, but also on the east side of town, is very important. And it outweighs the downsizing of the park. I certainly empathize with the neighbors on Brookside, and they are part of our neighborhood as well. And unfortunately, they did not find out until, very late that the park would be imposing on their property. So, but we really feel like there's an opportunity for them to have found out about the park if they would have come into our meetings. And so we still feel like the park will have adequate opportunity for play, for walking, all those things. But my question for Kristen would have been, I'd like to know who she proposed the parking lot to, because I think it's a great idea for consideration, and it may be a compromise that is worth discussing. Anyway, I just wanted to say that a majority of all of the neighbors attending our public meetings overwhelmingly support the presence of the East Substation. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Let me see if there's any questions for you. Any questions for the speaker? I'm seeing none. Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker, please. State your name and address.
Hello?
Ian? State your name and address.
Yeah.
And you have 3 minutes.
Ian Roten, 243 South Old Manor. So that park is a very frequently visited area for many people in the community. And just listening to the engineer, or I believe his name was Brian, who spoke earlier, he made several statements that I feel are patently wrong. As several people noted before, the remaining half of the park is bisected by the river, so really there's only 2 thin strips of park left after that police station goes there. It's going to be completely inaccessible for, any jogging path is going to be very small on either side of the river, unless they plan to put in bridges, which hasn't happened in all the years I've been alive. The playground relocation is going to be in between a wrought iron fence and a parking lot, which is not really the prime location for a playground. When he stated earlier that the playground is inaccessible, that is also just completely wrong. It's in the center of a large field, just a short walk away from the very, very open parking lot of the Girl Scout building, which is very rarely populated by many cars. I feel, in all the years I've been going there. I live a short distance away, but occasionally I've had to drive over there. It's always been completely open, aside from a few gathering nights, like once a month. The area that they stated near Edgemoor that was prone to flooding is actually the opposite. And all the times I've taken walks or taken my dogs on walks in that area, it's been the location that is the area in red, which has been the most often flooded. And the area, the small triangle left where the park would go, is actually the driest location. So that is just completely wrong. And if anything, the park needs a bit more resources in the way of drainage to keep that area from flooding. I think just a lot of this is a huge mistake. people have listed several other options. The old Wichita tag office is another potential area, since I believe they have moved out pretty recently or are going to move out. And I think just as a communal hub for the area, this is a very bad decision. The nearest other park for all people in our area is probably over in Eastboro. And I'm sure everybody knows what a hassle navigating Eastboro can be. I just overall think that this is a large mistake and will, there will be no communal area for all of the people in the surrounding, the village, the Crown Heights neighborhoods.
And your time has expired.
Yes.
Do you need any additional?
No, I think
Okay.
I'm
Let me see if there's any
content with what's said.
questions. Any questions for the speaker? Seeing none. Thank you, Ian. I appreciate your comments. Anybody else
Thank
out
you.
there who wish to speak on this issue?
Yes.
Looks like a
Hello?
Susan Cohen. Susan,
Yes.
state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Susan Cohn, C-O-H-N, 210 North Edgemore. I had written an email in favor of expansion of the police department, using up some of the park because I was misinformed about the size. So I would like to withdraw that email in favor and use this conversation as in opposition to a 25,000 square foot building that sounds like the size of the city jail down on Central and Waco. Isn't that about the same size? It's unbelievably big, and that would really impact this whole neighborhood. We already have this nice small community police department there, and I was envisioning a little more room because I've gone in there to deliver cookies at Christmas, and the guys are really great, and everybody's friendly, and it's a community place, and that's what everybody is envisioning, that same kind of existing structure, maybe twice as big, but not four times bigger than what it is now, and potentially impacting the whole area with traffic. It's already very impacted with traffic on Edgemore. I live right on Edgemore. I know what it's like all day long. And then the fire trucks, at least 2 or 3 times a day, there's sirens going by. And you put up with it because the neighborhood's lovely. And it's nice to have this green space nearby because it feels like a neighborhood. If that goes, it's not going to feel that way any longer. It's going to feel like an industrial area. And as much as we love the police department, that's a little bit over the top for me. And so I would have to say that I am opposed to that size of a building and hope that they can figure something out, something that maybe would fit the needs now, but not for, 50 years from now, which is what they're envisioning. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Let me see if there's any questions. Any questions for the speaker? I'm seeing none. Thank you. Is there anybody else out there that would like to speak?
Yes.
Okay, I see a Deborah Ricks.
Yeah, I'm Doug Oliver, actually,
Okay.
207 Courtly. We're one street east of Brookside. And as Pam said, we've had a briefing on this, and other people have said the same thing. We had a briefing from the captain about a year ago. He said that the footprint would extend as far north as the current playground. So with that said, everybody says, oh, that's nice. It's going to be wonderful. They're going to use this as a blueprint for other ones. Well, this footprint is a factor well above what we supported in the early days. If we had, again, there's no access. People come in from the neighborhood through the north. There's no real good access through that. As other people have said, that creek that runs through there just cuts off everything. You can't use the land that's to the west what I'm seeing today is a construction site that's much greater, and I just, what we originally approved or supported was a much smaller footprint. It was just north of the current parking lot along that front end that he says floods, although I don't know that it does, as you know. But anyway, this footprint is really not acceptable, and I'd like them, if nothing else, to relook at what they need to do and reconfigure it in this space to minimize the use of the park. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Let me see if there's any questions. Any questions for the speaker? I'm seeing none. Thank you, sir. Is there anybody else out there that would like to speak on this issue? And one more time, anybody else like to speak? Seeing none and hearing none, I will close the public, close the public hearing down and give the agent or the applicant 2-minute rebuttal.
All right, I might need a touch more than 2 minutes just due to all the comments, but I'd like to just start in reverse order of what was commented there. One thing to note about the footprint, you'll look and you'll see on the site plan, commissioners, that the building is about 77 feet south of the north line of that red line there. So I think it's important to note while, the structure is not taking up the entire land like it says. The other thing I'd mention about that is I think the Girl Scout building is probably roughly, maybe 15,000 square foot. So it's not out of character. I mean, there are other big buildings in this area, and that Girl Scout building's been there for quite some time. And I think it cohabitates well. One other thing to mention here is that with regards to the site plan, you'll notice that there's a sewer line that runs through the park. That is a major sewer line that drains much of East Wichita. So we cannot build over that sewer line. So you'll note that we've set it off from that sewer line, the building, and we've provided some building space there. With regard to screening and the neighbors, I just want to reiterate, there's a significant buffer area that we're leaving between the parking lot. I'm sure some folks won't be happy, but 40 feet plus on up to, I bet it's over 70 feet on the north, but probably for about 40 feet on the south is a lot of space to create screening. And there's nothing that would prohibit those folks at this time from continuing to walk out onto the parkland through there. I don't know that that's going to be fenced off, so I think that would be up to the police to enforce that, but I would suspect that they would have no issues allowing pedestrians to go to and from those houses there. So that's
Brian,
an important thing to know.
your time has expired. Do you need another minute?
If you wouldn't mind.
One more.
Okay, thank you. I think it's important just to know that we're not building this building for today. We're building it for tomorrow. And I know there's a lot of talk about how big the building is. This is a big city, and a quarter of all the population, or a quarter of all the land area, is policed out of this station. And I think that's something very significant to consider. We're not looking to put in a high-rise here. This is a low-profile building that will be in keeping with the neighbors. So I think that's another thing to consider. We could certainly go vertical, but we've chosen to stay lower profile, similar to the other houses around it. I think those are the main points I wanted to bring to your attention. And just to reiterate, there certainly could be some footbridges that would connect the two sides of the park in the future. There is a sidewalk along Edgemore. Certainly people can walk along there and gain access to both sides. So with that, I can stand for any questions.
Any questions for the agent?
Yes.
Mr. Foster, I'll get you, Bill. Go ahead, Mr. Foster, and then Bill, you're next.
Got a question related.
Okay.
Question is related to parking. There's considerable parking on the west side of the Girl Scout facility that it does go unused. And there's a considerable amount of green space there, and I'm curious who owns that parking west of that area. Was that looked at as perhaps joint parking or somehow working with the other adjacent owners there to develop parking and reduce the need on this site?
I think, Mr. Foster, I would just suggest that we can certainly look at additional parking options. That's possible, but this, I think that irregardless, we still would need to have the safety services approved for this site. But you know, as far as parking counts and that sort of thing, that can be sorted out, you know, later.
I have a question.
I'm sorry, we're not taking any more comment from the public, but I appreciate your previous comments. Mr. Foster, do you have anything else?
No.
Okay, Bill Johnson.
Yes, this is a question for Mr. Lindeback. Did you tell me that the area with the park and where the station is going to be is 11 acres?
The overall park as it sits today is about 11 acres. What the site plan that you see before you is 4.14. And like I kind of mentioned earlier, there's some of that land that's on the easterly side that's intended to be kept you know, free and clear of improvements. It'd just be a natural landscaped area.
I guess what I'm looking at, if you take 11 acres, that's about 480,000 square feet. And I know 25,000 square foot's a large building, but proportionally, I think it's about 5%. So I think everybody needs to understand that.
Okay, additional questions from, okay, go ahead, Chris. Or Brian?
Yes, sir.
Just didn't know if you had any comment on what Mr. Johnson said.
I just would concur with the staff report. There's a number of valid points. You know, there's 5 conditions that they suggest approval, and I think I'd just like to echo those 5 conditions as how it works with the community.
Thank you. Any additional, Mr. Hartman?
Yeah, Brian, did the city look at any other sites, consider any other sites besides this?
Yes, and I think that was part of that 7-year discussion period, is that they looked at many different alternatives and the ultimate decision, and I can't go into all the details of what all came about to this decision, but I know that proximity to Kellogg is a huge one. I know that proximity to the geographical center of the Alder Beats is another one. I mean, there's just a lot of different variables that go into this, and I think I would probably be amiss if I didn't echo. There's a lot of smart people that have thought this through over the course of several years, and they've engaged various organizations. And you know, I think we're just we're getting towards the finish line here, and I think this is just obviously one of the hurdles that we have to come about. But I think, you know, it has been discussed in public meetings for a long time, and I think it's very important to note that.
Thank you. Any other questions for the agent? Not, we'll close that portion down, go back to the commission for comments or decision. I'm going to start off. A couple of comments. One of them that expressed for me, I couldn't put it into words, but it made sense. This is not vacant land. This is a park. And there's a difference. There's a difference there. If it was just vacant land, I would say, okay, it's, you know, this is a pretty good place, a pretty good use for it from that standpoint. The second comment I've got is, if you're going to take something that the city has given to the community for such a long period of time, a park, that, and open green space, of which we are constantly saying that we're, you know, where is the green space, where's the green space, and we're taking that green space away. What are we going to give back in return? My vote on this is going to be to deny, but if it does go through, at the very least, I think the city has an obligation to spend some significant money in improving this park with some bike path, a bridge. The park is split and it basically becomes unusable unless there's a way to connect those two parks. And so if I'm not successful in this and it does pass, then my encouragement to the city would be to spend the money to make some improvements here in exchange for giving something back and what you're taking away. Ms. Miles.
I'm gonna have to agree with you, Mr. Warren.
Hard to do, isn't it?
It is. You know, we are always talking about the need for green space in this community, and I think there are other locations, and I'm a huge proponent of supporting our law enforcement officers and the work that they do in the community and keeping the community safe. That's huge to me. But I do think there are other places that could be considered as opposed to giving up this green space. And I know somebody mentioned Clapp Park, which is not that far away. And while, again, I don't like to give up huge green space, it has a lot more acreage than what this particular park has. And I see as giving up a third of the green space in this area. And I too would be upset if I lived in this area and bought a house with a park right outside my backyard and that park then went away. So I can't support it either.
Additional comments, Mr. Foster.
During the discussion, it was mentioned the governing body took some sort of action 2 days ago or something. What was that action that they're talking about?
Mr. Benzant is going to come and tell us all about that.
The action taken by the city council was to approve the design build concept for this structure to stay within their budgetary constraints for the building of this. So it was basically the process about wherever this is at, how it will be built.
Thank you.
Because part of that is when they pick the contractor, there are certain criterion that they have to consider. Under a design built by ordinance, the council has to approve what those criterion are. Thank you.
Doesn't have anything to do with the site itself.
Mr. Dewey.
No,
It's just the process.
It's just the process by which they would pick a contractor through our RFP process is what was done.
Mr. Dewey.
Before the Girl Scout office was there, back in the 50s, there was an elementary school, which I happened to attend, and a good portion of what is now the park and the fire station and Patrol East was playground for the school. And the city put the fire department in first and then Patrol East. And I think there was a reason why this was not platted or developed into additional property. The sewer may have had one thing to do with it, but over the years, it's been put to good use by the city, and I'm going to support the issue.
Mr. Green.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Mr. Dool there. I realize that there were 11 acres to begin with for this site, and they've removed or will be removing approximately a third of it. There'll be 7 acres remaining, and I think Mr. Lindeback stated it pretty eloquently that there are a lot of smart people that have been looking for a site for over 7 years, and this is the one they came up with, and I just kind of have to agree with the mindset that they came up with the right spot. So I would be, in fact, I'll make a motion that we approve request as presented.
Have a motion to approve as presented. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Dool. Further discussion. Mr. Foster.
Substitute.
I would, maybe staff can advise on this, but we didn't hear, we heard mention of the Town West site, but we don't know why that wasn't selected.
Town East. That should be, would be, Park Department or the people on that committee. I have no information. Maybe Brian can answer that.
Does anybody else know?
I never even heard of it.
No. No.
I have no information.
We don't have any information on that.
I tell you, if there's a choice between that parking lot at Town West and the northwest area and the theaters and stuff, I would choose the open space to be protected over protecting that parking there at Town West. So I would support Mr. Warren and Ms. Miles' comments related to the item.
I would also support Mrs. Miles and Chairman's comments. I think there's some better alternatives out there versus taking the park. It's a big footprint to take out of that park.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Do we need a substitute motion?
Something like that?
Ms. Miles, would you prefer to make the substitute motion?
I'll let you make the substitute motion. I'll be happy to second it.
You know, not only is it tough to get parkland, in Wichita it seems tough to keep it.
Yes.
So I'm gonna make a substitute motion to disapprove the item and maintain the parkland as it is.
And I'll second that.
We have a motion by Mr. Foster to deny and a second by Ms. Miles. Further discussion. We'll start with a vote on the substitute motion. Those in favor of the substitute motion to deny signify by saying aye.
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 Let's show of hands. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 with Mr. Florence. Those that are opposed to the motion to deny.
Aye.
Okay, 3. Did I count that right?
Yeah, because
7 to 3 for denial.
we had 11.
Hmm?
Yeah, Joe left.
Yeah, Joe left. He had to abstain. Anyhow. So,
No, it's 6-3 because we only have 9 now.
Okay, yeah.
No, 10, never mind.
Yeah. Let's stick with 7-3.
Yeah.
yeah, we got one way. Okay, so the motion to deny is approved 7 to 3. Do we have anything else on the agenda? Scott, are we done?
With everything that's on the agenda, I believe so. It looks like Mr. Foster has a comment.
Mr. Foster.
I just wanted to provide a note for the record. This past week, Robert Lakin passed away. From 1970 to 1985, he served as the planning director for the city of Wichita. Just want to make note of that.
Appreciate that. If there's nothing else, we stand adjourned.
Thank you.